What's up, everybody? Welcome to PSI Love You XOXO episode 58. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the future class of video games, blessing Adeoye Jr.
Greg, who you got in a fight between Cole from Infamous and Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank?
I mean, you got to go Ratchet, right? He's so crafty. I mean, Cole's got a huge weakness of water. You hit him with water, this guy's nothing. He's
Ratchet
done.
gets a
It's
water
over.
gun, it's all over.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
most
And he's got
creative
those
Ratchet and
tools.
Clank weapon, the water gun.
Yeah, the squirt gun, everyone's favorite. You know what I mean? Some Mario Sunshine, get him in that thing. Am I wrong?
No, I'm right there with you. I thought it was gonna be more of a thought process because my original question, I wasn't gonna go with Cole originally. I was originally gonna go with Kratos, but I thought that would be too much of
At that point, it's Kratos.
Do you think so? Like, are we talking like with prep time? Are we talking about we can bring in whatever weapons we want?
You can give Ratchet a 15-year head start. I still think it's gonna be Kratos.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah,
you think
don't
Kratos
you?
can take on like a gun that turns you into pixels?
We turn him into a chicken. He'll come back even fiercer as a chicken. Yeah, you can't stop it. You know what I mean? Like,
It's true.
I don't know.
He's a
Have you
god.
ever
He
seen
kills gods. Them
Blessing?
gods.
Have you ever seen those fucking those roosters or chickens in Legend of Zelda? They'll fucking kill you, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
And
that's
think of a
that's 20
Kratos
of them.
chicken. Think of a
think
Kratos
there's gonna
chicken
be
with
20
the fucking axe, bro.
At that in
Bro.
that case, you're envisioning a world where Kratos has a bunch of chicken buddies, right? Atreus is a chicken. The witch lady from
Atreus.
God of War, Atreus is a chicken. The witch
Freya.
lady, Freya is a chicken. Baldur is a chicken, and they're all coming through. to
Mimir is
save
a
Kratos.
chicken.
Mimir is a chicken. The two like store keeps.
Yeah,
From God of War
I
chickens.
always forget their names. I always feel bad about.
Don't tell
them.
me. Hold on. Don't tell me.
Oh,
I
Brock,
got it.
Brock and Sindri. Brock and
Yeah.
Sindri.
Brock and Sindri. Yeah.
Yeah, I love those guys. But see, I don't think Kratos is a chicken with the Blades of Chaos is going up against Ratchet when he has Mr. Zircon, he has the disco ball that can make you
Mr.
dance.
Zircon.
Ratchet has too many shenanigans that I don't think Kratos has the hands for.
I mean, he's got tricks. I'll give you that. All right. But eventually, Kratos is going to get his hands on him, and then he's just a Lombax. He's going to tear him limb for limb. All
How?
the guns and machines he's putting on Mr. Zircon. Mr. Zircon's done with. I mean, the Leviathan axe is spinning through, taking out Mr. Zircon, and then we get a funny line from Mr. Zircon. Mr. Zircon does not want to go. You know what I mean? Like something like that. And he's dead. Sparks shooting out of him and all that shit. It's over.
I hear you.
I think that, and I'm underselling my boy Cole, of course, but I think the fight between him and Ratchet would be more fun, more interesting.
Cole and Ratchet.
No. Kratos and Ratchet.
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
think-
yeah, because I think you have more. There's more strategies that you can envision because Kratos is going back and forth between his Leviathan axe and the Blades of Chaos and the number of weapons that you have from previous God of War games too. You know, he has
Sure.
like the fist weapons. He has like a bunch of
I
different
love
stuff.
those fists.
Yeah.
Yeah, you figure, and remember, you said Infamous, just Infamous. So that's why I didn't even bother bringing in Ice Powers or anything else. You know, Cole gets later on in Infamous too. It's not even worth it.
Chance
We're
Carter
talking
in the
very
chat says Kratos killed Zeus. Blessing. And here's my question to
Do you
Chance
think
Carter:
Ratchet is Zeus?
Did Zeus?
Like, you think
did
Zeus,
Zeus
can take
have
Ratchet?
a fucking pixelator gun?
That's what I'm saying.
We
Did Zeus
rest
have
our
Mr.
case.
Zircon?
We rest our case. Blessing.
Because Zeus make his enemies dance on command.
Here's
I don't
my
think
question,
so.
though, and this is where I would throw it out. And again, I'm sorry. I am lapsed. I obviously know a little bit more about God of War 2018 and the Infamous franchise as a whole. But for Ratchet, the pixelator gun, the chicken gun, all the guns, the dance bomb, right? Or was it a gun too? All these different weapons, they render you into that form for a little bit. You come out of it.
Yeah,
But
but
here's
like,
the thing: how much
why are
ammo?
you there?
How much ammo does Ratchet have?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's gonna
that's
run
the big
out. He's
question.
got tricks. He's got tricks. I got that. He's very much like Batman. You know what I mean? Where he's throwing utility belt stuff out all the time.
yeah.
But
That's why I
eventually,
say with
Kratos
prep.
is gonna get close enough, and then he's gonna do the thing where he smushes out your eyeballs.
I don't know, man. That Omni wrench, once he busts out that Omni wrench, hits Kratos
it's over.
over the head, he gets knocked out.
I see. I don't think that's what would happen. I've seen Kratos like collapse under, have a mountain dropped on him, and roll around and do all this crazy. I don't think the ratchet wrench is gonna get him.
I don't know. I think what I'm saying is that the Omni wrench and the Leviathan axe are equal in this equation.
Huh. I mean, that's a
They
statement.
both have. I mean, they both have pretty much the same functionality, except the Omni Wrench can fix things. What's the Leviathan Axe doing? Except for getting thrown and getting sucked back, which the Omni Wrench does. The Omni Wrench does that. What else is the Leviathan Axe doing?
We're starting a poll here on Twitter. We're gonna see.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Please
I think
weigh in.
the people will probably agree with me here.
No, I bet Kratos wins in a
prediction.
landslide.
Add with prep time. Make sure you put with prep time in the tweet.
Wait, what did you say about the Omni-Wrench and the Leviathan Axe are the same?
Pretty much the same. Yeah, except the Omni Wrench can fix things.
All right, so Kratos versus Ratchet. Who wins and why? Parentheses, they have prep time. And I say, please weigh in Sony, Santa Monica, and Insomniac Games. Then we put in the poll here. We go Kratos. We go Ratchet. Then you do the third one. Show me results.
Boom. Scientific. I like it.
I've seen enough polls. You know what I mean? I know what people want in their polls over here. And then we're gonna say what we usually go for. We're gonna do an hour. We'll just do an hour here.
I like that.
Okay.
Get it before the episode ends.
Yep.
Do it. The episode's not gonna still be. We're gonna still be going along into this episode. An hour in. You know how this show goes. You know what I mean?
We're gonna be a quarter of the way into this episode by the time that poll gets.
It's going to be a
involved.
4-hour episode?
This started
Just
well
wait.
because we are talking, ladies and gentlemen, about that God of War. You may have noticed from the thumbnail or the headline. If you didn't know, this is PS I Love You XOXO. Each and every week, Blessing and I come together to nerd out about all things PlayStation. If you want to be part of the PlayStation party, head over to patreon.com/kindafunnygames, where you can support us and get your questions read on the air. You can get the show ad-free. You can get it with the post show we do each and every week. You can be watching live as we record it, just like the Lou is, Ryan is, Chance is, Arc Wing are. All of that's available to you. Patreon.com/kindafunnygames. Of course, gives you your PSN profiles and everything under the PlayStation sun. Of course, if you don't want to toss any bucks our way, no big deal. You can get each and every episode each and every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. YouTube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe each and every weekday. For now, housekeeping. If you didn't know, we stream on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames each and every day. It's a little show called Kinda Funny Games Daily. But new in 2021 is us streaming actual video games after the fact. It's a lot of content, usually 3 hours a day. However, you don't have that much time to watch all that. I understand. You can go to youtube.com/kindafunnygames right now and get the condensed best of highlight video that Roger puts so much work into each and every week. It's a banger this week. He has a whole bunch of fun bits in there. A lot of random Kevin thoughts, which I was very appreciative of, and I like what he's doing. I like what he's doing over there. Be like our Patreon producers, Graham of Legend, David Mintel, Trevor Starkey again, Elliot, Patrick Higgins, James Hastings, Katie Gallagher, Sancho West Gaming, Shy Jackson Burgess, Alex J. Sandoval, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, Man Bear Paradox, Thalia Floyd, Civilian Soldier, Mizuki, Trent Berry, Kevin Bogues, like Muggsy Bogues, Joy, aka Joseph O'Yusef, Tyler Ross, at Jesse the Decrepit, James Davis, aka at James Davis Makes, and the Nanobiologist. Today, we're brought to you by ExpressVPN, EveryPlate, and Upstart. But let's start the show with topic of the show. Blessing, you stumbled into it up there already. You were talking about Kratos. Could he beat this? Could he do this? What's he going to do? Could he eat a potato? Right now, by the way, Kratos winning the poll with 60% of the vote. Ratchet has 28%. And then, of course, the rest are show me the results. Mike Minotti from, of course, the one and only Games Beat says, Ratchet is too kid-friendly to ever die in his games. Kratos is going to bite it eventually. So there you go. Shield Boy here says Ratchet could actually turn Kratos into a chicken. This vote is a sham.
And to be clear, we're talking about a fight to the death.
Of course.
Yes.
And that's where Aaron
So
James
people know the rules.
Aaron James Lowe comes in and says Kratos wins. Why? He has a history of killing gods and immortals.
I mean, Ratchet kills a bunch of aliens
And
on
again,
the daily
he's got a chicken
with his
gun.
weapons.
He's got a
and he
chicken
has a
gun.
chicken gun. He
Yep.
can turn into a chicken and cook you. And
I'm
eat
just
you.
saying, man, the chicken can only last so long. And that's just he's just putting up minor defenses to stop him.
And
Greg,
the
how
sheep-
long do you
and the
think
sheep
it
gun,
take you to
too.
kill a chicken?
I mean, a God of War chicken? It's coming for your eyes. And it's flapping its wings. Don't act like that's going to be an easy thing for you to kill, Bless. All right?
No, but I think I if I had to kill Kratos as a chicken in a time limit as Ratchet and I have his fucking bombs and shit.
No,
I'm
yeah, you
doing
said
it.
if you could. You just said if you could, you know?
But if I'm Ratchet, I don't want to like envision like what it would take for me to kill a chicken because I've never done that before. I hope I never get to do that. But if Ratchet had to do it with his weapons, He could figure it out. I give him 2 minutes tops to figure out how to murder Kratos as a chicken. Where are you typing? What's going on here?
We're putting a follow up here now. It says, "Could Blessing as Blessing kill Kratos as a chicken?" Yes. No. Period.
Oh, I'm gonna lose that poll. I already know I can
Show
lose that
results.
poll.
Well, I like people, they're doing, obviously if you listen to a Kind of Funny podcast or Sir Greg podcast before, I like when you show your work. I like when you answer something, but you tell me way more to it. So I appreciate it on the Kratos vs. Ratchet, all the descriptions of why and what would happen here. Now we get to see in these people's fictional world as Blessing tries to fight Kratos as a chicken if he could do it.
Eventually I would win. We're talking about a time limit where Kratos turns back to a human after... or whatever Kratos is, half god, whatever. After what, 45 seconds, 30 seconds? I don't know if
no, you couldn't. But I'm saying we just want to know if you could kill Kratos as a chicken.
Eventually, I will kill Kratos as a chicken. Yes. Yeah, the answer is yes.
Could Blessing as Blessing kill Kratos as a chicken? Blessing is a man, Kratos is a chicken. Yes, no, show results. All right, 1 hour long, bam, it's out there. All right, we got to see.
Y'all better vote yes, because the answer, unlimited time, chat, people listening right now, the answer is yes. 30 seconds, no. I'm not killing him in 30 seconds.
Chickens
10 minutes? Oh, I'm kicking Kratos' shit in 10 minutes. He doesn't want that smoke. Chicken Kratos doesn't want that smoke.
It's one of those where he knows he knows he's in it to the death too, and I feel like he's got the chicken talons, and he's got the beak, and he's got to come at you with some kind of maneuver.
But he's the size of a regular chicken, correct?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm thinking a big rooster. I'm not thinking he's just a normal ass egg laying chicken.
How tall is a rooster?
Big ass rooster.
Hold on.
How big?
A lot of Googling going on in this episode.
Rooster. That's the first Google. This is just, the standard Brahma rooster is 2.5 feet tall.
Ooh.
That's a big ass thing, you know?
Yeah, Kratos as a rooster gets a little bit
here you go. The dodo. This rooster is the size of a small chicken, and he's real. No, this isn't a man in a chicken suit. It's not. This is Stephanie Messenger at thedodo.com. It's not every day that a chicken gains international stardom as a bona fide internet celebrity, but it's easy to see why this particular prodigious rooster has done just that. He is absolutely enormous. Oh my God, Barrett! I wasn't going to show it, but I got to show it now. Hold on, I'm sending this to you, Barrett.
The reason why I paused immediately is
Good
because
Lord.
I just played Sekiro, and in Sekiro you do fight a lot of roosters, and the roosters are the size of the human that you are in Sekiro.
The rooster.
And if I had to fight those things, I couldn't do it.
I don't even. Fuck that. This rooster is Kratos. All right, this rooster, as it is with Kratos' knowledge and cool Spartan skin and stuff.
Oh my
God. The rooster's rise to fame began last week after his owner, chicken enthusiast, shared a video of the bird on a Kosovo-based Facebook group. The clip quickly spread. There's nothing fake about this. Turns out the rooster is a Brahma chicken, one of the largest chicken breeds on Earth. Among those typical birds, however, is even more massive than that. He weighs 16.5 pounds. That's 4 pounds heavier than average. He is also as tall as a toddler, standing 2.79 feet from head to toe. Holy shit.
I still think you got him, Blessed.
Oh, yeah, I got that. No, yeah, I got that. What, about 2, you said 2 feet and 9 inches? What did you say, 2.9 feet?
Yeah, 2.79 is what they said.
2.79?
But here's the thing. I understand what you're saying.
Like a kickball.
I understand what you think you're doing. I get it. But understand that this is the god of war who has killed many things, who has died before. Like, he is going to come at you in a way that you're saying you're going to kick. First thing he's doing is jumping for your face and flapping those wings. And your natural reaction is going to be like to go like this to try not to get hit with the wings. Then it's a peck right to the fucking face.
Kratos doesn't know how to fight as a chicken, though. We're talking about Kratos who is war torn. He's used the fucking blades of chaos. He's used the Leviathan axe. He's used all the different weapons. He's used his hands. Chickens don't have hands. They have fucking wings and claws.
Look at the fucking feet on this thing right now.
Kratos is not.
It looks like he's got hooves. This chicken right here, this rooster.
He's gonna need time to adapt to the situation and understand how his chicken.
Well, hold on a second
works.
now. You said we didn't say that you were turning him into a chicken. It was just chicken Kratos versus you. I see this in the UFC.
So has he been a chicken?
Yeah.
How long has he been a chicken?
He's been a chicken.
Is he a chicken with prep time? Because if that's the case, then no.
He's a chicken
I
with
give
prep time.
I don't have. Okay, then I'm not gonna take him.
All right, good. I was gonna say, don't insult the man here, because
The quote, is he a chicken with prep time? It was the moment where I was like, all right, we've totally lost the narrative in this episode.
Kratos being turned into a chicken randomly, and then me having to square up with him. I'm fucking taking him out. Him being a chicken for at least, let's say, an hour beforehand. No, I'm not gonna take him.
Okay, so
because he knows.
This makes some sense. You think that like is like dang dang, and he's like oh right, and he turns into a chicken, and he's gonna be like what the fuck? How do I use the wings? How do I use the claws? Kind of thing.
Exactly, and he's gonna have to like he's gonna have to run up. Time.
So you just want to sucker punch beat down on this poor guy.
Yeah, against Kratos. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I've played his games. I know what he's capable of.
Without any of that information, the Twitter audience said, "Yeah, there's not a chance in hell you beat Kratos as a chicken." 70% of the vote is in as no, 23 is yes. The rest are just showing results. Because you're just getting clowned out of here. Let's see if anybody gave me any interesting stuff.
Listen,
here
I understand. Work from home. You all see me sitting down at this desk for the last year. You've not seen me in my element. You've not seen me standing up in a UFC ring, squaring up against people. That's not my element. But imagine that was my element. You've not seen me in that situation, so I understand where the doubt comes in. But trust me, me against Kratos as a chicken with little prep time. Oh, I got him.
It's that thing where a lot of people in here are pointing out that they don't think you could take a regular chicken, let alone a Kratos chicken.
Oh, god fucking damn it.
And then I do enjoy this one here. Waluigi, aka Marvel Light 616. Marvel Light, sorry, 616 says Kratos will climb Blessing like a colossus of roads, and Blessing goes down. That I could see. That's the other thing too. You're not thinking of. I mean, because think about that. You go to kick him, he flops over and he's onto your back, right? And now you've got those talons in both your shoulder blades, and then he's pecking at the back of your head. And your first reaction is going to probably be to try to cover like this, which gives him more access to just your vertebrae that he's trying to dig into and go for.
Yeah, Kratos has fought multiple beings, like multiple gigantic beings. And so, you bring that into the mix is a very good point because he does know how to navigate a bigger opponent. But doesn't know how to navigate those claws. I don't think
all this talk wasn't on purpose about Kratos and God of War to get you to the God of the War topic of the show, but we're there anyway, so everybody, this all worked out. We're going to talk about what if we don't play as Kratos in God of War Ragnarok.
He plays as chicken.
It should be pointed out, this is going to be a lot of spoilers for God of War 2018. This is if you haven't played God of War 2018 and plan to for some reason, first off, get on that. I don't know why you haven't played it at 60 frames. All that 4K stuff's out right now on PlayStation 5. But in general, you should skip ahead. Hopefully, we'll put time codes in this one and you'll be there, but we'll see. So hold on. See, I appreciate Timur Hussein over here is in the live chat, and I'm looking to see if he's not saying, he hasn't weighed in. He does say battered and fried within minutes. So I think he might actually have your back, saying that you could be.
Kratos is reading my, or Kratos. Timur is reading my mind because I have a tweet that I'm about to tweet out that in regards to that exact thing.
Okay, you want to go for it? I can wait. It's no big deal.
No, keep going. Yeah, I can do. I can do. I can multitask.
I don't know. I want you to do your thing. You know, I mean, this is a good day here. We're having a good conversation. It's a good podcast. Anyways, though, so spoilers for God of War 2018 if you haven't played it already, but you should have done that a long time ago. For now, jumping into this, we're going to start at the PlayStation blog, where last week they did a roundup of people in the industry saying, "Hey, what's your most anticipated PlayStation exclusive?" Nothing broke from this, but we have a question from Zach that I thought was interesting that piggybacks off of what Herman Hulse wrote. Of course, Herman, the head of PlayStation Studios, used to be over at Guerrilla. Now he's over there in the head of the PlayStation Studios role, taking over for Sean Layden pretty much. Anyways, his quote was this: "Playing God of War in 2018 was a great experience for me. That series has always had amazing action and combat, but the emotional depth Sony Santa Monica brought to Kratos' story as a father was very memorable, especially since my son was only a little bit older than Atreus when I played it. So to see and hear the reaction to that tiny glimpse we unveiled at the PlayStation Showcase last September was very exciting. I can't wait for people to see what Sony Santa Monica is making." Blessing. Of course, we can't wait either. We've talked about this before, but right now, thermometer, temperature check, is God of War Ragnarok, God of War 2, whatever you want to call it, coming in 2021?
I'd like to hope in a perfect world, yeah, but I don't think so. You know, like Ratchet and Clank being announced for June has made my doubts skyrocket, basically, where they announced that game for a launch window. In my mind, launch window is probably up till March-ish, and I don't know how PlayStation operates, but I would assume that their minds would maybe in a similar place. But you say launch window so that you have that wiggle room. Them announcing that game for March, I think, puts Horizon somewhere in the second half.
Yeah, and if we're talking the fall game, right, or September,
that becomes the fall game, probably, and I think that pushes out God of War to 2022, because I think the question is, is that enough time for them to develop a full God of War game? Even if they are working off of the bones of God of War 2018, and even if that game is going to be God of War Ragnarok is going to be on PS4 along with PS5 and all this stuff, I still think that is too quick of a turnaround for a game that they probably want to be another masterpiece that lives up to the name of God of War 2018.
Agreed. And I think that's the biggest trouble for it. And as much stuff as there's going on in the world, I agree with everything you just said. I don't think it makes 2021. I don't think that they were like lying about it. I think that was the plan, but you always plan for that kind of stuff and you can always shake it. And I think the fact that, like we've talked about before, that Ratchet, at launch window, but still had so much stuff to show, even that making it into June. Horizon, which actually had a gameplay trailer or a trailer set in the world or whatever, not having a date. And then God of War Ragnarok just being the logo, right, freezing over, I think means there's still so much work to be done on that game. Not that it's off track, just that that's how you make a video game, right?
Exactly.
However, here's a question Zach wrote in with the patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, just like you can to be part of the show. Not so much a question as it is a thought experiment. With the recent news that Herman Hulst's most anticipated game is God of War Ragnarok, it got me thinking. There was a lot of talk about the Dualsense haptic feedback being associated with a bow draw string, and everyone assumed it was referring to Horizon Forbidden West. What if that assumption is only half right? And it actually was referring more to Atreus' bow in the new God of War, since, he says minor spoilers, but again, remember, it's full spoilers from here on out. We can guess the game is going to start directly after the end credits scene, and Kratos is already all-powerful. The power reset for the player is playing more as Atreus with his bow as his main weapon. Is this a crazy idea, or just crazy enough to make sense? Thanks for all the amazing content. The refs are blind, and the Wild Aces should have been given an automatic win. Have a nice week, Zach. Blessing, this led me to an interesting question we haven't actually discussed, you and I. And I guess the easiest thing is, what do you think God of War Ragnarok is going to be? And you can tackle that from any direction you want. Storyline, gameplay, wherever you want to go. Because I think Zach's question about Atreus here leads to some interesting possibilities.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting question. I think that is one possibility, to play as Atreus in the game, and that is a good opportunity for that power reset. I think that would then lead into the question of what makes the game God of War. Are we at the point now where you can call a game God of War, but you're playing as Atreus, right? And Kratos is Kratos still with us at that moment? Does Kratos die at the beginning of the game? Does Thor come through and just murder Kratos? And
Sure.
That's how things get started. And if that's the case, are they able to pull that off? Is that still a God of War game?
If we could bear it, if you notice, I put the first hyperlink in here. That is the God of War post credits. If you want to play that for people who maybe haven't seen it or don't remember it, of course, when you beat God of War, of course, you rolled credits and then the game picks back up. If you wanted to, you could go home, which I think was the mission it might have popped up to say. And if you go home, you'll see what happens here is, of course, Kratos and Atreus fall asleep. And then we get a years later screen. It's apparently them waking up, even though they haven't aged, going outside, and Thor is outside to confront them. This, of course, led to a whole bunch of different questions. I believe one of the preeminent theories I saw on Wikipedia or whatever is that it's actually Atreus' dream, his vision of what the future may hold.
Because after the cutscene, I think Atreus mentions he had some sort of weird dream. So I think
I had a dream. It felt like the future, and Kratos is like, "We'll deal with that tomorrow" or whatever.
And that's why it makes sense that they haven't aged, because it's all in a weird vision for Atreus.
Sure, yeah, exactly. And if I can, while we look at this right here and see Thor pop up, the last two paragraphs of the plot synopsis from the God of War wiki read like this. In Jotunheim, they find a temple with a mural depicting their adventures, showing the giants had foreseen everything that would happen and vaguely foretold what was to come. Very similar, of course, to what Atreus would see here, because, of course, he's part giant. In addition, they discover Faye was a giant who decided to stay behind in Midgard, making Atreus part giant, god, and mortal. Their fight with Baldur was shown, revealing he was after Faye the whole time, unaware she was deceased. It is also revealed that Atreus was named Loki by his mother. Kratos and Atreus then fulfill their promise and spread her ashes at the peak, overlooking a valley of giants' corpses. Afterward, Kratos reveals to Atreus that his given name was that of a compassionate Spartan comrade. Returning to Midgard, Mimir warns them that the 3-year-long Thimble winter, I'm fucking that up, has begun, meaning Ragnarok is soon to follow, which was not supposed to occur for another 100 years. In the game's secret ending, Kratos, Atreus, and Mimir return home to slumber. Atreus has a vision that Thor will arrive at the end of film and confront them. So back to it. Sorry.
Yeah. So like that, I think poses an interesting idea of basically the question we're asking, right? Is what is the next God of War going to be? Them mentioning that Ragnarok's not supposed to be for another 100 years, kind of brings me back to my thought process when I originally beat God of War, which is Kratos Ragnarok? Like, is he what is bringing forth Ragnarok? Because I feel like that is kind of the logical conclusion that you get to here. Because for how God of War 1 ends with Thor, you imagine Thor is the next final boss. You imagine he's going to be the big bad in the next game.
Well, one of the things I put it out today, of course, hey, on Twitter, which you should be following for stupid polls about chickens, and then also think last second questions like this where you piggyback off. And I was like, what do you want to see out of this? Like, what are you looking for from this game? Danny Bird wrote in and said, more epic boss battles. Part of the reason I loved God of War 3 so much was the boss battles. They were cinematic without sacrificing satisfying combat and difficulty. God of War 2018 nails that feeling with both the Baldur fights, but the other boss fights didn't do a whole lot for me in comparison. I want to pair that up with what you just said, Bless. Is Thor going to be there? Is he the first person you fight? Or is this just a vision of what's to come and we'd fight Thor along with others? Because, of course, if you're not familiar with what Ragnarok is just a Norse myth, Wikipedia has an intro paragraph like this. In Norse mythology, Ragnarok is a series of events, including a great battle, foretold to lead to the death of a number of great figures, including the gods Odin, Thor, Freya, Heimdall. We know him, of course, as Idris Elba. He has a big sword. And Loki. Natural disasters and the submersion of the world in water. After these events, the world will resurface anew and fertile. The surviving and returning gods will meet, and the world will be repopulated by 2 human survivors. Ragnarok is an important event in Norse mythology and has been the subject of scholarly discourse and theories in the history of Germanic studies. So I would feel that as you lay out this, right, you're talking about Thor, Odin, Heimdall, Loki, and granted, Atreus is Loki. I think that's what serves it up to a more modernized take on God of War 3, like you're talking about, Danny, where it would be the idea of, guess what? In the same way we hunted down, Hercules and Achilles and Zeus eventually, you're going, they come and pick a fight with you. But to bring in Zach's question, I do find it really interesting and tempting to see what if it went the way we don't expect, where, yep, Thor shows up on the doorstep of the house, whatever. He's there to exact vengeance and set the thing right. And he ends up beating Kratos and taking Kratos. And that we play as Kratos in this fight, right? But it's a situation we can't win. We end up losing. Thor takes Kratos, and we follow it for a second, but then we pan back, go to Atreus, and the camera spins behind teenage Atreus, and suddenly we have to play as him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that'd be a good way to do it, because the thing I've been thinking about lately, especially about God of War, is that what sets that adventure forward is so simple in premise, right? Like the whole thing is it's Kratos and Atreus, and they're going to scatter their Atreus' mom's ashes at the top of the mountain, and that's pretty much what the whole game is. And I feel like for God of War Ragnarok, I think it'd be cool for the premise to be similarly focused and similarly personal in a way. And I think it's kind of impossible to get something that personal, out of something as similar as God of War 1, where it is, hey, this is a loved one and we're scattering their ashes, but something that is as singular as Thor either took Kratos or murdered Kratos, and it is Atreus exacting revenge. Is that too close to Last of Us Part 2? Probably, and that probably gets a little bit tricky, but secluded from that, I think that could be a cool premise for God of War 2.
I'm gonna throw this out here because I think we're relying, I do like where they're interpreting the actual allure of Ragnarok and stuff like that, but I think we're also putting too much stake into assuming that everybody understands in that world who Atreus is and his role in Ragnarok. I do think it's going to be almost another circumstance of not understanding who everybody needs to go after. I think a lot of people like Odin and Thor and stuff are gonna think that it is Kratos who is the kind of reason Ragnarok is starting, and I don't think you're gonna play as, if you play as Atreus in Ragnarok, I think it's gonna be a smaller section. I don't think it's gonna be the entire game. Whereas
well, see, if I can jump in, I want to keep going, obviously, but the one thing I love about it is it gives you the reason to build up a character. It gives you a reason to start from a low level to go to a high level, right? God of War 2, of course, I thought had a great answer for that, if you remember. God of War, you finish, you've done it, you sit on the throne. God of War 2 opens with them being like, you know what, you suck, and them stripping away all your abilities and tossing you back to Earth.
Yeah.
And that was why you had to go back up that mountain. It's always that struggle of a video game with superheroes or, gods of, all right, cool, now we enter into this world that we're so fucking badass, not to mention how great it was to get the right armor sets and stuff for the first time around in 2018, but then to come back, how do you do that where you're like, okay, this is why we're trying to explain what Kratos is this time around.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I mean, my thing too is I wouldn't be surprised because Kratos being Ragnarok is kind of the easy answer. It's
See, I think that's what everybody's going to assume. I think that's going to be the setup of this game. Again, like the first game where Kratos assumes that everybody is going after him and everybody thinks that Kratos is this giant that they're looking for. I think in Ragnarok, everybody's going to assume that Kratos is the cause of Ragnarok, and you're going to play as Kratos the entire time thinking that because, like, it's solely like him, he's not supposed to belong in this world, that he is the reason all of this stuff is happening. And then there's going to be a revelation like 2/3 of the way through the game that it's actually because of Atreus. Atreus is actually the one causing these things.
Well,
that's
that's
going to be
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I think Atreus is gonna fucking murder everybody, just because that's kind of where
as
we
you
left
play
the
as
first
him.
game. Yeah, and I think that's a very big possibility because that's kind of where God of War 1 was at.
One of the things you talked about was, the relatability and the personal story that was this last one, right? Father and son on a journey, dad distance. How does he, connect with his son? I think that you could do either the murder or the kidnap of Kratos at the beginning, then have us play as Atreus and have it be a similar, we have a story to tell thing that doesn't traipse into the exact same thing Last of Us did. Because for me personally, spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2, everybody knows this, of course, though. Like, it wasn't so much that Ellie was out there trying to, she wasn't out there searching for Joel's approval, if that makes sense. Like, she was out there to avenge Joel and to make people pay for it. Jesus, Timur, take it easy on the keyboard. Hold on, we're introducing you 1 second.
Yeah, I've muted him for a little bit, so
that's cool. It's cool. But it was also the idea of like the revenge idea was there, obviously. But like, I think Atreus's thing would be, Dad never told me he loved me. Dad never said he was proud of me. I need to do, I'm on this journey, obviously for revenge and to fuck up all these gods, but the gods have also ruined our lives, right? Mom's dead. Dad was estranged. He never had this thing because he has this chip on his shoulder about the gods. Blah, blah, blah. Timur Hussein from GameSpot.com, you were in the live chat on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. I invited you in here because you have plenty of thoughts. Where are you with what God of War 2 will be?
Hello, everyone. First of all, apologies for the clicking. I got one of those mechanical keyboards. Feels good to press and not so good to hear. So here's the thing. I really like what the original was doing, or started to do, by subverting Norse mythology somewhat. I think they're going to present it as Loki and Kratos being the agents of Ragnarok. But actually what's happening is they're depicting Odin as he has been in various ways, and the Norse gods, as they did with the Greek gods, as being assholes. And actually there's a little scheming happening. Sure. And they are kind of trying to kick off Ragnarok. And what eventually happens is you realize, Atreus is the solution to Ragnarok, and Kratos is what's effectively going to stop Ragnarok. And that's where you bring in the giants from Jotunheim and all that kind of stuff. So Kratos is going to use his son Atreus to reconnect with the giants, as his wife would have wanted, reunite that family line, and then the giants and Kratos and Atreus team up to stop the Norse gods from enacting Ragnarok and effectively wiping out the giants' bloodline or something like that. I feel like they're going to present Kratos as the force for stopping this ultimate end of the world, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I like that because it connects in the themes of the first game and within the themes of the second game. That's the thing that I've been kind of racking my brain with, is how do you take something that is as personal as God of War 1 and turn it into a new story that feels kind of like how I feel about Last of Us Part 2, right? That justifies its own existence while playing off of the first game thematically. And I think what Timur just described does all of that.
Great. I'm gonna dip out now, but I definitely think that Blessing could take Chicken Kratos.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
wish the rest of the world agreed with you. Right now, 70.7% say no, he could not take out Chicken Kratos.
If we had prep time, I'm also I didn't think about what I do in my prep time. I'm thinking about what Chicken Kratos does in his
Great point.
In his prep
What would
time.
you do with your prep time?
I'm bringing in a butcher knife. I'm cooking that dude.
Okay.
I'm turning him to a McDonald's chicken sandwich. Barrett, I tweeted the picture. You can show it to people if you haven't.
I already showed it. Yeah.
It's a really
Okay,
good
perfect.
tweet. It's a really good tweet.
Yeah,
I do like
no,
that
I'm
a
cooking
lot.
them up.
Yeah. Back to this conversation though, about what's happening over here. I had a whole bunch of you write in, like I said, and I liked it. But here's a question I want to get while we're talking in the giant scheme of it, right? Chris Childers writes in and says, do you think Kratos will die in Ragnarok and you will take over as Atreus? So now I was talking very much about like this question, maybe the first battle, yada, yada, yada. Get that out of your head. We're not even talking about it. We play as Kratos the whole game. It's exactly what you think. Blessing, by the end of God of War Ragnarok, do you think Kratos dies? Does he sacrifice himself to prevent Ragnarok?
I think Kratos dies at some point in this modern God of War series. I could see him dying in the next game because I think eventually he will take over as Kratos, as Atreus. And I don't know if that's in this next game or the game after, but I think that is going to happen. We still, in God of War 1, we left Freya in the place where she's still like, I'm going to fuck you up.
Yeah,
like, I think
she's coming back for blood, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she has the quote somewhere in there where she's like, I will literally scatter your fucking ashes.
She's like, I'll bring down like hellfire for, like as much as I can and shit like that. Yeah.
And I don't know if Kratos will be able to stop her plus whoever else she has with her, right? Whether that be Thor or Odin or whoever else. I think Kratos is destined for death. Also, just because Kratos is this character who, over the span of the whole God of War franchise, has done so much bad. And even though he's redeemed himself here and there, I don't think there's any way for Kratos to fully redeem himself for the sins that he's committed. And I think storytelling writing just tells us that he has something coming to him, even though we're at the place now where we like Kratos. I think a lot of us like Kratos as a character and his whole arc that he's gone through.
100%.
I think he still has to pay, and I think we're going to see that either in the next game or the game after, and we take over as Atreus.
Yeah, I think spoilers for Red Dead Redemption, the original, right? It's like a similar thing where you can't leave that life behind. It is always going to hunt you down. It is always going to be on your heels. And so I think if we're going to take over, if we're going to kill it, if we're going to kill Kratos, I think it has to happen this game. And if you're going to take over as Atreus, I think you have to do it this game. Because I feel like when we start talking about Kratos as a character and what purposes he's served and what he has left to say or do, it starts getting fewer and fewer the opportunities, right? Because yeah, it is this thing of Kratos sucked as a character, from the way back, and just screaming everything, being mad, fucking people left and right. But we got who he was pure rage. 2018 either redeemed him in your eyes or just gave him depth and gave him a character and gave him a story, right? In a pool of emotions to pull from. When we saw that, I think the more we talk about it and bring in the question that started this all off of, are we going to play as Atreus from Zach or whatever, the more I think you'd get that final moment of starting with him and Atreus in a better place, the Thor fight or whatever is happening, Thor kidnapping or killing him or whatever, but having that moment where probably he's got to kidnap him, take him home to stand trial, in Valhalla or whatever for Ragnarok. Or, no, not Valhalla. What am I thinking of?
Something Heim.
Sure, but where? No,
like you're talking about the world of Norse mythology.
Yeah, but I'm thinking actually of I'm picturing the place with the rainbow bridge from Thor.
Thor's home.
Yeah. Asgard.
Yes.
Take him home. We're so huge. I just watched Thor: The Dark World last night. I'm like, I know this fucking world. Take him home to Asgard to stand trial or whatever. We go through. We do that. In the end, Kratos. Again, the whole thing isn't about revenge as much as about saving Dad, but also wrestling with the fact that you did. It's basically that cat, the Cat Stevens song or whatever of like, what your dad thinks of you, and that's the theme we're going to go with this. Or did you make your father proud, kind of thing? And you get there and you get that moment as Kratos sacrifices himself that he is proud of you or whatever, and that's when you really take up the God of War thing or whatever, and you take his blood and you rub it on your face so you have the red line and like go that way with it.
What do you think the chances are that Atreus kills Kratos? Because that was the big thing in the first game. That was a game that towards the end of the game, right? Kratos confesses to Atreus about how I'm from this realm and all this stuff, and I ended up killing my father. And you have a scene where Baldur is on the verge of killing Freya, and then you get to the point where you have this scene where you kind of have that reveal of the wall that tells the future, and it's talking about how like Atreus is going to end up murdering Kratos. Or at least that's what I got from it. Do you think we get some version of that? Because in a gameplay sense, I think it could be, if you can frame it in the right way, I think it would be really interesting to make the player kill Kratos as Atreus. And I don't know how you end up in that situation where the player feels comfortable doing that, but I think you can get there and it'd be really cool.
Well, Tora wrote in at patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says, I want this to subvert expectations with Odin dying in this game and Thor rising to be the main antagonist. And somehow poise Atreus to turn against Kratos temporarily with what his name means and all, but eventually he'll come back around. That could be the other thing about this, where it is this journey of Atreus, or maybe whoever. It's one of them journeying to the other, right? Getting there, realizing you're not on the same page. Maybe they do have a fight, right? But it gets separated. And then the next time they come together, it is that we have to work together to stop whatever this is, or Odin or Thor. And then you get that final moment of, you've done well, son, kind of thing. I am proud of you, son. And this is just me pushing my own agenda, I guess, in terms of what I think you'd be wrestling with right now. Because I go back to what made God of War's story such a success, right? It was this personal story of a father and son coming together, right? And Corey's been very vocal talking about it, about a personal tale that is for him, right? And that's Corey as a father, and dealing with that. And obviously the many people who worked on it that are parents and what they saw in it and why I think so many people flock to it. But then the other way would be that of taking it like, how do we do it for another game? Where do we push it? And where do we want to push, Atreus? Then it becomes no longer that you're the father, it's you're the son. And what's your relationship with your dad? And what's every kid want out of their parents, right? And how does this work, and go through that. And I think that's where that could all start weaving its way into actually giving you a meaningful narrative that shakes out in there.
Yeah.
My last.
I can't wait for this game.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, please.
My last two questions here. One is this because Tim started the whole narrative of this might be a Miles Morales kind of game, which I don't believe, because like the entire end of the first game is setting up Ragnarok. Like that'd be such a weird choice to have it be like a smaller game that they were trying to set up at the end of the first game. Like I do believe this is like the full on like sequel. Two. So like, fuck. What was my first question? Do you think this is a Miles Morales size game? And then two, since they were building up Ragnarok at the end of the first game, and if we're assuming that this is going to be a trilogy, like where do they go? I know this is like a little too early, but like where do they go after Ragnarok? So those are my two questions.
For the first question, I think they would have clarified that by now if it was more of a Miles Morales thing. Because from a marketing perspective, I think if you put out the game and it's way shorter and way more condensed, and feels like a smaller story than God of War 1, I think you get raked over the coals.
Yeah, because even like Miles Morales, like early on, they were like, it's a Uncharted Lost Legacy, like kind of.
Yeah, like they very much came out and they were like, they had the dude who gave the false info that was like, oh, it's an expansion that comes with Spider-Man and all that stuff, and everybody was like, what? And then that's where they had to come out and be like, hey, no, it's more like Lost Legacy, which I think people ended up being very okay with. To answer your second question, what was your second question again?
Where do you like, since this, if we're assuming that this is the second game in the third, like in a trilogy, like where do you go after Ragnarok? Because I would have assumed if we're doing a trilogy, Ragnarok would be the last one, the third game. So
I think that's actually a really good question, and my assumption has always been that in this next game, Thor is the big bad, and then the final game is Odin. But I also don't know, like what the natural progression of that is for Norse mythology, if that makes sense for what Ragnarok is and where you would think the conclusion of that would be. I think the way you make it make sense is if it is similar to what Greg is saying, or I forget if it was Tamora said, if it's similar to what we said before, right, where you get there and it is about us stopping Ragnarok, or something along those lines, and Ragnarok isn't where it ends. Ragnarok is kind of where, like, us fixing Ragnarok is where it ends, which leads into the third game, which puts us against whoever. I think that could be the way to do it.
Yeah, it's so interesting for the size question of it. When they initially said it's going to hit this year and all this stuff, and we're talking about it, I think, your knee-jerk reaction, especially with Miles Morales already happening, that you thought that's how it would be. Now that we're closer to it, and the fact that I don't think it's making this year at all, I don't think that's the case. I don't know if it'll be necessarily as big as God of War 2018 was, which is so hard to do, to enumerate, to figure out. Am I talking about the hours or the actual space or the realm? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm not getting into that. I think I could be, in the grand scheme of things, a shorter game than 2018, but I think it'll be a fleshed out game. Not that, to your point, Blessing, not that I think people finished Miles Morales and were like, oh man, this wasn't a full size game. This wasn't enough game. Like, I mean, you can want more for sure, but I think we all enjoyed the experience enough to be like, all right, cool, this was good. And it didn't seem like it had the fat posted to it. And I want to get into, like, so many people wrote in with actual things of like what they want mechanic wise for the game. In terms of it being a trilogy though, and going on there, what I don't know shit about Norse mythology, believe it or not. I know it's shocking, and I've put on a brave face throughout this entire presentation. But like when you get here and you're talking about after the events of Ragnarok, the world will resurface anew and fertile. The surviving and returning gods will meet, and the world will be repopulated by the two main human survivors. Like, I feel like you could do that a couple different ways, where either it's this game like we're talking about, and at the end of the game it is that we thought we were going after Odin, but it was really Thor pulling the strings, and that's in like, you know, he's the one who gets the final killing the end on Kratos, and then just bounces, right? And that leaves Atreus there with the body. This, you know, he becomes his father. He is this pit of fathomable rage. Maybe at that point he gets the blades of chaos, welded to his skin or whatever, and then you could, cut scene there or whatever, and then or have us go into the next one that way. But I mean, I feel like what they're talking about here is no matter what is happening, whether it's the second one or the third one, right? I feel like we're going to get to a place where the way this trilogy ends, or this story, because I'm not even sure if it's a full-blown trilogy, and I know people say stuff all the time on the internet, and then it turns out that's not what they were saying or whatever. I feel like this ends with they're just being, this beautiful green world, and then they're being just maybe Atreus and whoever his new partner is his wife, whatever. Maybe they're Adam and Eve kind of thing that you go off of with that. You try to meld it all in that way. Maybe it is Kratos and Atreus at the end, but I doubt they both make it out of this. I don't know. There's a bunch of different stuff like that I think you could work your way into and like use that, because they are using obviously the architecture here and the structure of what people know, broad strokes, to then go in and tell their own story. But at some point, Kratos has to die and Atreus has to get the blades and be fucking awesome.
My question is, once Kratos dies, eventually they're going to want to reboot God of War again or make some kind of new trilogy or whatever. And the way that marketing and video game development, all that stuff works, they're going to want to bring back Kratos. And my question is, how are they going to do that? Like I'll like for it to be he wakes up in a new realm, and then we get the reveal of like, oh, this is how he keeps doing it. He dies in one realm, wakes up another, and that's how they keep going with it. Yeah. But I think that's eventually going to happen, and I wonder how they're going to tackle that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it's a tale of two PlayStations, where I think early on you would have said that, yeah, for sure they're going to do that. But then now, with all of these first parties firing on all cylinders and then being able to find success with new IP, when you look at Last of Us compared to Uncharted and stuff like that, I do wonder if they would put it down for a long time and not worry about coming back to it. And if you really wanted to, you could continue Atreus' story and go that way. But again, you have to be inspired for that. But again, I think, the big question of this narrative we're building that isn't, real, but you can see where it would be if we put Atreus onto the sins of the father. If, whatever happens in Ragnarok and the series going forward puts him very much into, he has the blades on, he's out for revenge, he's screaming Calliope. If he's in that level of anger, you don't leave him committed to that when we walk away from the trilogy or the narrative, right? You want him to have that moment of like, even if it is Kratos on the other side with his mother and with Calliope and his first wife, like being like, there's a better way. Like that's got to be it, right? You don't want this unwanted violent cycle that goes through, right? And I mean, again, spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2. Like, again, we're getting close to the line. Last of Us Part 2 was also walking and telling the story they were telling. But I think because of the fantastical nature of God of War and Kratos and the gods and, Athena and stuff like that, you get more chances to have a different outcome that I think at the end, when you boil it down to 3 sentences of what it was, you're like, oh, that's real similar to Last of Us. But I think in the actual gameplay of it and the storytelling of it and the journey of it, like to get to the end and have it be that Thor is all but beaten. You know what I mean? Loki, I was saying, but Loki's got him down. Atreus has got him down. And it is that thing where he's just like, no, it's not worth it. And tosses the blades, and the blades unspool from his arms, right? And he's like, Ragnarok's already happened. We're not going to do this, yada, yada, yada. And then Thor gets up and he goes, I'm going to go by a new name, Jesus. And they're like, oh my God.
And I guess the more I think about it, right? Like over the course of 3 games, you could do so much to attach a character to a franchise. And people already have very much accepted Atreus as a core part of modern God of War. And so I could see like 10 years, 15 years down the line where we're getting the new God of War trilogy, that it is a grown Atreus with the blades or with whatever weapon, right? His bow and arrow, and maybe he gets passed on the Leviathan Axe, and he that is where that starts. And we're playing his story as opposed to Kratos, and people be okay with it.
Looking here, where do I want to go? So far away. Trey Daniels said, "Will we see Odin in God of War Ragnarok?" Of course.
I think
I
we'll
don't know if
see him
you'll
in the way we
fight
saw
him.
Yeah.
I think we'll see him in the same way we saw Thor, where
Really?
he show if my theory is correct, where Thor is bad for this next game and Odin comes and Odin is the big bad for the game after. I think Odin will appear for a scene or two, and he makes a huge presence. But then they set it up that hey, that's to come. That's what's next.
Mm.
Either that or he will be a very big part of God of War Ragnarok. One of those two things.
Yeah, it's really a question of how much they're setting up and if this is meant to be. How far do they want to take it? Is it a trilogy? Is it the thing? And again, I'm trying to remember. Hold on. God of War 2018 trilogy. Because it
I
wasn't
don't know.
quite.
I don't know if they've talked about it.
Well, you know, it's that thing where if you didn't know, just Corey doesn't shut up, but then he also doesn't say things straight either.
Yeah.
And like Corey never gives you a straight answer
I
on
think
anything.
maybe a quadrilogy.
I think the closest answer we've ever gotten was that like they were already setting up ideas for a second game while like wrapping up the first
I mean,
game, but
yeah,
that was
yeah,
like
yeah.
all we've really gotten.
I hope it's not a trilogy.
Quadrilogy. I'm
Honestly,
calling it.
yeah, you know what?
What do you
I'm
think?
with you, Greg.
What do you
We
want it
need
to
to
be
get out
then?
of trilogies. Like we got all these Star Wars trilogies.
Trilogies are great.
You know
3
what?
is the
Nah,
perfect
dude.
number.
Here's my thing: trilogies are great when they're thought out and you
Yes.
know where you're going.
Yes.
Star Wars is being the example. And I'm not saying that Corey and the team haven't thought that through, but there's a big difference between we have ideas for a sequel and we're telling a trilogy. Because telling a trilogy is Mass Effect, right? Where it's like you're making a decision here, you know what that's going to mean when you get there to the end. This
Like,
one, to
literally,
be like
it's like-
wrapping up God of War Ragnarok and be like, oh, I have an idea for the next game, that's fine. You want to leave it open with a teaser thing, whatever, that's fine. But I'm like, everything we're saying right now, I personally think kind of sucks in terms of the Odin stuff. I don't want it to be Odin's, whispers in this, and at the very end, he's like, "It was me all along." But peace, and he leaves. And and the same thing I pitched. I think Atreus putting on the blades would be such a fucking bomb ass moment, and his eyes like glow a bit red, and we go fucking ham. I don't want that to cut to black and then be like, "We'll see you in God of War 3." It's like, fuck no, like that sucks. That's old school video game shit that I don't want to deal with. I'd rather it be that here's this fucking balls to the wall, hard ass tale we're going out and telling. You're going after all these Norse gods. Ragnarok is happening. You're going after Odin. You're doing these things. You're killing them. You're not killing them. They're killing you. Whatever it is. But like we're putting it all into this game rather than sitting here going, save something for. We're doing a trilogy. Save something for the third game.
My thing is I like closure. That's my main thing. Is if you can cut it down in a way where you are not teasing, if you can get to a game where it's like we're not teasing anything for the next game. This is where it all ends. We're tying up all loose ends. That's what I'm all for. And so if we can get that out of Ragnarok, then I'm totally good with having 2 God of War games. But something tells me in the way that the game development works and the way that creatives work, I don't know why 3 is the number that everybody goes to, but
Star Wars.
I could see them, and maybe it is a Star Wars thing. I could see them getting to that place where they're like, cool, we told this amount of story in God of War 1. We have so much we want to tackle in God of War 2, but it is going to take a third one to truly wrap everything up. I think that would feel right to me. But I'm down with any number of games as long as at a point we get closure, because that's my
100%. Here's what I want to talk about from a yub in Ottawa who wrote into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. And I said, what do you want to see in God of War Ragnarok? The answer here, less loot. Please, God, less loot. I don't want to spend so much time in menus looking at numbers and comparisons of such boring loot. If they want to keep the gear game, make less loot, but make each piece more meaningful. Killing the final Valkyrie Queen rewards you with an axe pommel that turns your light throw into a missile that flies at incredible speeds. It's my favorite piece of loot in the game, and that's just because there was a long and meaningful journey to acquire it. It didn't just drop for me from some random chest. I'm replaying the game now on New Game Plus Plus on PS5 after the recent patch, and after the second playthrough, there's no new loot in the game, which means I'm spending less time in menus and more time experiencing this incredible world and narrative. Bless, did you have a problem with the loot system for God of War 2018?
No, I didn't have a problem with it, but I think anything can be improved, and I think
Sure.
that makes a good point that the more you can make loot meaningful, especially in a God of War game that is all about the world and narrative and how everything in this world can be meaningful, I think that would be a better direction than for me to pick up random stuff that gives me upgrades that feel trivial in terms of the meaning of them, not trivial in terms of I do like having +1 or +2 on whatever attack or whatever thing I'm adding this to. I don't know if that means less loot, but I guess that just means more loot that feels earned and that feels like it has a story behind it. Like the one I remember the most too is the one where It was an Infinity War inspired thing where you get I believe you get a gauntlet and then you have to like find certain
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
stones or
remember
something
that. That was
fit
awesome.
in that gauntlet. Yeah, and that was like a really cool thing. I want more stuff like that.
And I want less of the weird, the yellow one that goes across his shoulders, but like shows both of his nips. I want less of that armor.
I love them nips.
Oh,
Come on
no,
now, you
it's
kidding
too
me?
Much, too much.
Do you know what's wrong with his nips, man?
It's just like the way it frames his like body, where it just goes across his shoulders, but like
Little
doesn't-
BDSM,
Yeah.
little How Weird festival here in San Francisco.
a little bit, a little
Yeah.
bit. I think that's what it was. I do love like the one that like covers like half of his chest and it looks like dragon bone or whatever. That shit
Sure.
was dope as hell.
Yeah, it's the thing of I remember the loot system fondly, but I haven't gone back to God of War since I platinumed it, and so I don't remember getting in the way of stories. But I like that kind of stuff, and I am the guy. Ooh man, plus 5 armor armor damage here. I'm gonna get in this, or ooh, fire resistance. Like I enjoy that kind of thing. So I could see if it's not your jam at all, maybe it was too much and got in your way. But I definitely loved how it looked physically. I thought that was so cool. Blessing.
Greg.
I'm excited to see if any of our predictions about God of War Ragnarok were true. But God of War Ragnarok is not coming out this year, so there's not much more we can do about it. Instead, let me tell you about patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, where you can go to be part of the show. You can get the show ad-free, and you can watch along live, just like Nick Ash's, Demetrius's, Joseph's. Of course, you can do all that there, and you get the show ad-free, but guess what? You're not watching on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. So here are some ads, Greg Way. This episode of PS I Love You XOXO is brought to you by ExpressVPN. You know what's not fair? The fact that Netflix hides thousands of shows and movies from you based on your location and then has the nerve to increase prices on you. That's right, they've just raised their prices once again. Now you could just cancel your subscription in protest, or you could be smart about it and make sure you're getting your full money's worth by using ExpressVPN like we do here at Kinda Funny. See, you might not know what's on Netflix in your country is completely different than what's on someone's who's in the UK or Japan or whatever country you're not in. Using ExpressVPN, we can control what country we want Netflix to think we're in. ExpressVPN has over 90 countries to choose from, so every time we run out of something to watch, we can just switch over to another country to unlock new shows. Right now, Cool Greg is all over this from what I hear. He watched everything during quarantine of US Netflix. Now he's off there watching crazy cartoons I've never even heard of, and you can do it with the tap of a button because ExpressVPN lets you change your location to wherever you want to be in the world. And here's the best part, it's not just Netflix. You can use ExpressVPN to unlock shows on other streaming services too. People can use it for BBC iPlayer. We were just talking about this with Julia Hardy last Friday on Kinda Funny Games Daily. It's free and only available in the UK. That's BBC iPlayer. I put text in there. ExpressVPN is also super fast and works on your phone, laptop, and even smart TVs, so you can watch your shows on the big screen with zero buffering. So be smart. Stop paying full price for streaming services and only getting access to a fraction of their content. Get your money's worth at expressvpn.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use our link so we can help you get 3 extra months for free. That's expressvpn.com/kindafunny, expressvpn.com/kindafunny to learn more. Up next is Upstart. You know that credit card? The one you're afraid to look at to see what the balance is? If you've been avoiding your debt, it's time to confront it, and Upstart can help you face it and finally pay it off. Last year showed us that you never know what life is going to throw at you. And if you use credit cards to pay for unexpected expenses, it can be overwhelming to manage that debt. Take control with Upstart so you know exactly what to expect. Upstart is the fast and free way to get a professional loan to pay off your debt all online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high-interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get a simple, fixed monthly payment. Upstart finds smarter rates with trusted partners because they assess more than just your credit score. Of course, they look at your education, job history, all that stuff. As I've said many a time, when I moved to SF, I took out a personal loan. People I used didn't do that. They didn't look at that. So I got a really bad rate. You could get a much better rate with Upstart. With a 5-minute online rate check, you can see your rate upfront for loans from $1,000 to $50,000. You can get pre-approved the same day and receive the funds as fast as one business day. If debt is taking over your life, it's time for a fresh start with Upstart. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/kindafunny. That's upstart.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided on your loan application. Go to upstart.com/kindafunny. Can't get my fat head out of it, so it'll focus on the hammer. I hate that. You know what I mean, Bless? Technology's come too far. It's come to
Blessing, knows face recognition too well.
Well, first off, I want to get my PlayStation updates from you, but let's update the polls as well right now. We have 9 minutes left in our poll right now. Kratos is beating Ratchet. 64.9% say Kratos would beat Ratchet in a fight. 23.5 for Ratchet. 11.7 show me the results. And then meanwhile, you are just you have not moved the needle at all. No is at 70.3% that you could not beat Kratos as a chicken. 22.7% are incorrect and say you could beat Kratos as a chicken, and 7% wanted to see the results.
No, I think they're correct. The people who said I
what I'm
can
hearing.
No, they're right. They're right.
No.
I can take them.
What else you got for PlayStation news?
I got a couple of updates for you, Greg. I'm going to start with, what do we want from PlayStation Productions? And is it Twisted Metal? I asked this because as of today, we got an update over at Variety about the Twisted Metal movie. This is from Joe Otterson, who writes about how Twisted Metal series from Deadpool writers is in the works over at Sony Pictures TV and PlayStation Productions. The new series is described as an action comedy based on an original take by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, the writers behind Deadpool films and Zombieland. Quote, Twisted Metal is one of the most beloved franchises from PlayStation, said Assad Kizilbash, head of PlayStation Productions. We are thrilled to have such a great team working on bringing the iconic game to life for the fans, end quote. The show is about a motor-mouthed outsider who is offered a chance at a better life, but only if he can successfully deliver a mysterious package across a post-apocalyptic wasteland. With the help of a trigger-happy car thief, he'll face savage marauders driving vehicles of destruction and other dangers of the open road, including a deranged clown named there's a typo in here that's tripped me up twice in a row now. Including a deranged clown who drives an all too familiar ice cream truck, whom fans of the game will know as Sweet Tooth. Greg, is this what you want from PlayStation Studios? Are you looking forward to this Twisted Metal thing?
I mean, did I want anything from PlayStation Studios? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like Last of Us series. All right, cool. Of course, that's in. Neil's in it. We got Pedro Pascal. Let's go. That's cool. Let's go. It could be a part of it. Uncharted movie. You got Spider-Man. All right, cool. Let's do that too. Now you're telling me there's a twist. If you were to tell me, hey, they're working on a Twisted Metal TV show, I'd be like, oh, like that sounds kind of dumb or whatever, right? But then when you get in here, you're like, oh, it's not about the car combat thing. It's like, I mean, it is, but it's not about it like I thought it would be. I thought it would be, I'm stupid and have no imagination. So I thought, you tell me you're making a Twisted Metal movie, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be by the book Twisted Metal. Calypso's out here and he's all like doing the stupid like, I'll give you your wish or whatever the hell he used to say, and like then you get all the different endings, which would be fun to see the different endings. But I digress. This does nothing for me, no, but like at least they're doing something interesting with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I like about this is that from the pure concept of a Twisted Metal series, immediately I'm like, I don't want that. But when you get into it and they talk about how, we have folks who wrote for Deadpool and Zombieland on it, then I'm like, all right, I could definitely see the direction with that, because Twisted Metal, like there's a lot there that you can get wacky with. This pretty much strikes me as a funny Mad Max-ish sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like the fact that it's not just like, go smash into each other and do this thing. There's going to be plenty of smashing into each other. But it does seem like they're taking the base idea of it and then extrapolating out and trying to build something around it.
Yeah, and like I'm not one who's paid attention at all to the story of Twisted Metal, and so when I read this, I'm like, if you're gonna do it, that sounds like a good direction. Even though talking about it earlier, right? Like Kevin surprisingly very into the story of Twisted Metal, which I didn't realize. And so he was like, "Oh, but man, Twisted Metal is all about this, and that, and they could have done this and that." And you're like,
"Excuse me, Twisted Metal is not about this, that, and that at all. It's about smashing the cars and having rockets on your cars."
Yeah, I mean, and that's what most people know about Twisted Metal is smashing the cars. And so if you're gonna take that and create a story out of it and include Sweet Tooth, then cool. I'm about that. As long as
this sounds like a much better idea than what my close your eyes. There's a Twisted Metal TV show of like, oh, they're like on some kind of weird futuristic esports thing where they're all slamming into each other. It's kind of like Running Man, but it's cars and shit. Like, no, I'm like, okay, cool. Like you said, a weird comedic Mad Max, a Borderlands weird TV show or whatever from Deadpool. All right.
Yeah. How much do you care about the PlayStation production stuff so far? Because I'm kind of with you that I don't need this to exist, but it seems like they're doing a good job with it so far. With all the news we've gotten, I'm not rolling my eyes at any of this.
Yeah, that's the thing where I think I'm still even keel. I'm not excited. I'm not up or down on this. I'm not pro or con on it. It's very much like taking the things I love or some of the franchises I love from where I love them to a ecosystem that I'm not as juiced about. I'm not as jazzed about, but like Last of Us for sure I'm going to watch. Like I'm excited to see how that develops and go. Uncharted for sure I'm going to watch if it's day and date digital. Like, yeah, I want to see what these things turn out for, and I'm down for 2 hours of Tom Holland being a goon out there, being Nathan Drake or whatever, sure. But like, no, at no point has any of this stuff been announced, and like, I guess that's kind of a lie. No, at no point has any of this stuff been announced, and I've had my world stop. And of course I think we were live on one of the streams when the Pedro Pascal stuff happened. It was like, oh man, that's cool, it's happening. But it wasn't like when the Invincible movie got announced a while back, like years ago now, right? Where I flipped out on the Kind of Funny morning show, and like Tim had to read it because I couldn't put the words together. Like none of that's happening for me. I wish them all the best, and I'm excited to see what it turns out to. But I'm not excited in the way like, got it. Well, man, I'm not excited for this like I am for the Batman. Where it's like, if right now in the middle of this, they're like, well, I guess that doesn't make sense. If in a show that wasn't PlayStation related, if they were like, the Uncharted movie trailer just dropped, they're like, oh, cool, we'll watch it later. Whereas like right now, if they were like, oh man, the Batman trailer, I'm like, blessing, pause the fucking PlayStation news. We're watching the Batman trailer.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. Would there be any announcement though that would get you there? Because I can't really think of much.
Upon animated series, let's go. You know.
Oh yeah, there you go. If the
that wouldn't get me there either. Though.
If the Ratchet and Clank movie didn't already come out and wasn't already like okay, you know, that probably would have got me there. No, I heard enough people be like, that's whatever. That I was like, I guess it's not worth me checking out.
I had
which is wild.
Friends who went to go see it, and they were the entire time the only two people in the theater.
And that's my thing is like before that movie came out, that's kind of all I asked for. I was like, dude, a Ratchet and Clank movie that was like a Pixar kind of movie, you know, 3D animated, that'd be so cool because Ratchet and Clank has a lot of that fun and attitude that would make for a great one of those movies. You know, like there's so much personality in the characters in the world of Ratchet and Clank. And when that movie came out and the reviews were like, and everybody was like, I was like, oh. And then I didn't go see it. And so, you know, aside from that, I'm sure there are things here and there. Like I know people would probably get excited about Sly Cooper or something like that in a similar vein, but I find it difficult for me to think of anything off the top of the dome that would immediately have me like, fuck, that's the one. Maybe a God of War movie, but even then I'm like, nah, not really.
What about Metal Gear?
Metal Gear, you have to sell me on Metal Gear because I love Metal Gear as a franchise, but so much of the things I love about Metal Gear correlate to it being a video game that I don't know if you're able to capture a lot of the same stuff. I think we've had this conversation before where I'm just
sure,
like,
yeah, I mean, Oscar Isaac, right?
Yeah, like there's Metal Gear is so inspired by cinema, you know, and it has so many of those elements in it. But I still think the things that make Metal Gear cool and awesome for me go into how it breaks the fourth wall, goes into how it does weird things with the controller. I think of the long monologues. I think of the 2-hour-long cutscenes. Shit like that is the shit that gets me into Metal Gear.
Well, and I know we don't have many examples to look to as like, oh man, video game movies that got it right. I feel in general that's what we're talking about though. Is like, no matter what makes Metal Gear to you, Uncharted, Last of Us to all of us, like you're not going to get that out of a movie necessarily. Because no matter, even if you are like, oh, it's really the performances and the writing of The Last of Us that, you know, I loved about it. Sure, but you also played it, so you experienced it in a different way. Where there's just such a thing for any time there's a video game movie where it's just like, sure, I wish them the best of luck and I want you to go have it, but like, is that going to deliver? How much do you lose? How much does it become something different, and where does it go from there? Like, you know, over the weekend or Friday night maybe, we watched the Monster Hunter movie. Cause like I want to watch the Monster Hunter movie. She was like on about it for 2 days, and we finally were like, all right, fine, let's do it. And we put it on, and Monster Hunter and me personally, right? My journey with Monster Hunter is reviewing the PSP games at IGN, having no bit. I shouldn't have done it, but that was a different time. And that taught me Monster Hunter while I reviewed the games. And then, you know, I played not every one of them. That's too far, probably, right? But I played the PSP ones. I played the Wii one. Did a bit of the DS one, right? And then, but anyways, Monster Hunter World was the next time I got hooked, right? And put like 130 hours in with Jen and Kevin and Xavier Woods. And it, like, we played that thing nonstop, loved it, had such a great time. But Monster Hunter is such a different thing where I came into that movie not with some, hey, I want them to make sure they hit this plot point and have this character in it. And like, that's not what Monster Hunter is about, right? It's about the monsters and it's about fucking killing them. And so, like, watching that movie, it was above my expectations of it because like they don't get hung up on there being too much of a story. You know what I mean? It's this, Mila Jovovich is like trapped in the Monster Hunter world all of a sudden, and like there's a Diablo and there's a Rathalos, and it's like, all right, cool. Like they're fighting things, and like she crafts armor at one point, and they spin the meat on a stick, and I'm like, all right, hey, they're nailing the Monster Hunter parts of it, and also just giving you a movie where they're fighting giant monsters. Like they did all right by this, they achieved it, but like. Watching it, like Jen and I were like, oh man, this reminds me of when we did this and when we did that. And it was that thing in 3/4 of the way through. I'm like, is this going to get us to play Monster Hunter again? And we both were like, no. Like, we loved our time with Monster Hunter. We loved all those hours with Monster Hunter. But then you start thinking about coming back to a game that big and how much have we missed? And what did you do? And what armor set was I working on? Why was I grinding for this one material? Like, it wasn't there. And so, like, for any of this, like, the disconnect between what a movie is, I guess, long story short on this, is the disconnect between what a passive form of entertainment versus a video game are. They're just different experiences, and you want different things from them in a way that, like, I wish everybody the best, and I hope all these projects are successful because that's good for our industry and good for bringing in more fans. But none of them, for me, make me go, fuck, I need to go see these.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. And I think in terms of movies like Monster Hunter, or even in terms of something like Mortal Kombat, I think the thing that kind of separates those a bit for me is that so much of those games are about action and the gameplay over the actual narrative that's going on. Mortal Kombat has a huge narrative, and especially the modern games, people are in love with the stories in those games. But for the Mortal Kombat movie trailer that we just got, they pretty much boiled it down to, hey, Liu Kang is here. He does his fire shit. Sub-Zero does his ice shit. Scorpion has this fucking get over here cool. chain. And yeah, like the blood shank was fucking awesome.
That was fucking dope.
But you don't need to go beat by beat of the story in those games in a way where for a Metal Gear movie, I think those characters are so attached to us. We have such an attachment and love for each of those characters in their story arcs that I don't know if you could do that in the same way where it is, hey, how do we boil down the things of Metal Gear that make Metal Gear? Is it the action? Is it the stealth? Is it this? Is it that? I think there's so much to it narratively that it's kind of hard to boil it down. But I'm willing to see. Like, I hope they succeed with it because I would really like more Metal Gear stuff that I can fall in love with. Greg, let's talk about that DualSense. I got another DualSense analog drift update for y'all. This is our second PlayStation update. This is from Jack Webb at GamesRadar. PlayStation update. A new teardown video of the PS5 DualSense controller has claimed it has a life of 417 hours until stick drift kicks in. Those who have been lucky enough to get their hands on a PS5 might have noticed that it's not all sugar and rainbows with Sony's powerful new console. Some players have been reporting that the dreaded stick drift phenomenon has reared its ugly head, severely impacting the gaming experience. This has prompted some YouTube channels to revisit initial teardown videos of the PS5's DualSense controller to see why this could be the case. YouTube channel iFixit uploaded a video recently. Uploaded a video recently to explore the DualSense. With the results,
like something Kevin would say. Kevin, my computer's not doing. I fix it. I fix it.
With the results pointing to the controller only having about 417 hours of use until it begins to have an effect on the controller's joysticks. The video shares a look at the controller, shares a look at the controller and gives us some details from Alps, who is the manufacturer of the joystick parts. And the result points towards the expected operational life for the sticks being 2 million cycles, and clicking the analog stick will last about 500,000 cycles. Putting this further into perspective, if you were to play your PS5 console for just 2 hours a day, you'll get about 7 months of use out of your controller before you begin notice drifting. The most worrying part of this, however, is that those who watched the initial teardown videos of the PS5 controller knew that this was already the case. A previous teardown video from iFixit pointed out clearly that the joysticks inside the DualSense were the same found in the PS4 controller, using tech that's also used in the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. All of these controllers have experienced some sort of joystick drift over the years, most notably the PS4 DualShock and Nintendo's Joy-Cons. To catch you up, if you've been missing out on this news, over the last couple of weeks, we've been reporting and talking about how people have been talking about how they've been experiencing some DualSense joystick drift that then turned into a class action lawsuit that was filed last week. And we'll see and hear more from that. But for where we're at now, Greg, where are you at with all this?
It sucks, of course. You want everything you buy to last as long as possible. It's crazy that like it's interesting even where over the years controllers have experienced some form of joystick drift over the years, most notably the PS4 DualShock and the Nintendo Joy-Con. I remember the Joy-Cons being such a huge deal, and I had a pair of Joy-Cons, one of them started drifting or whatever. But DualShock I never heard that much about, and I never experienced it personally myself. And granted, I'm a fake gamer boy. You know what I mean? I don't play games. You know that.
You barely play games. Yeah, like I feel like the thumbsticks would tear apart before like I would.
That's very true.
Yeah, like
that would happen.
PlayStation 4 stick would pop off. Yeah.
Totally fucking tear apart easily. But like I don't think I ever got drift with them.
And I have an old DualShock controller, DualShock 4, where I would have like the smallest dead zone in my analog stick, and that happened after years and years and years of playing. But joystick drift hasn't been as much of a thing that I've experienced or that I've even heard about. And so like this seems like one of those things where people are definitely experiencing this, but we'll see how big of a deal this ends up.
Right. Because
for what this article is saying, right, like it takes 417 hours of use until it begins. That is obviously going to vary from person to person because we've heard about people experiencing it 10 days into having a PS5, and I'm sure there are people that aren't going to experience it until 9 years of having a PS5.
And that's the trouble about it, right? Where I remember when I was on the outside and I wasn't switching controllers as often, right? Because I feel like now there's some special edition or something, you get a new controller or somebody's we got Butterfinger play or Xbox controllers, right? Like there's always an excuse for why you're about to get a new controller somewhere. But I remember when I was on the outside and I would break down an N64 controller, I would wear out a PS2 controller. It was always that thing of feeling like it was accomplished. Like I played so many games, this thing couldn't hold up to it and broke down, or this button started to stick, or yada, yada, yada. Like you played with those controllers so long that they felt broken in. They felt like they had something to them. And that was cool. Getting it and having drift 10 days in, getting it and barely using your Switch, and then you find a Joy-Con drifting, like that's a different argument. And that's fucked up and that sucks. And I hope that's covered under the warranty and that they're going to do right by people and get them replaced and fixed. Like, but even that for, look at this, like, and again, you're talking about it, right? That it all varies by person, 417 hours. If you're getting 417 hours out of it, again, that'd be me right now as an adult. Hopefully 417 hours from now when I'd be done with the thing, PlayStation would have some cool colors out for the DualSense or whatever, or it'd be my excuse to go get a controller chaos, actual custom kind of thing or whatever. Like it's different. It sucks. It's different by person. It's different for every case is what I'm trying to say there. Different. Mm-hmm. But in the long run, of course, unacceptable to sell a defective product. And, if it is something that is being broken that quickly and not being the huge problem that people are having, then that's just not fucking cool. You need to take care of that. You need to fix that.
Yeah. It's one of those things, too, where we're still in that first wave of new consoles. And so I assume if this is a problem that PlayStation identifies, that they'll, fingers crossed, fix it sooner than later, right? With the wave 2 or wave 3 of the version of the controllers getting out there. I think the main thing that is bringing this up as being more and more of a conversation has been what we've experienced with the Joy-Cons. Like the Joy-Cons do have a drift issue that I see reported on so much. I've had Joy-Con drift, and I think that's kind of alerted to people that like, hey, this is a thing that needs to be addressed because it can happen where they just don't get fixed and it becomes an issue for everybody. I hope that's not the case with the DualSense, and that's going to be a thing of we'll wait and see. But yeah, for the first wave of consoles, this stuff's going to happen, and
that's the other thing too. Is like honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of an issue. And I know that does not help you if you're listening right now and you've had your joysticks drifting, yada yada yada. But I think of Red Rings to death. I think of all the different fucking bricking problems, overheating issues you've seen with first run consoles and stuff. So. Yeah. If it's just a joystick, it's annoying as hell, and you hope PlayStation has to. Not even I hope they do. They have to fix it. They have to get in there and make it right by people. But at least it isn't them just fucking shit in the bed immediately, which I know some people's have. PlayStation 5s have.
What I want is for some fix to my external hard drive issues I've been having with my PS5.
Dude,
that's what I've been dealing with.
The fact that they won't update the games.
Yes, well, that first and foremost.
So fucking annoying every time I turn it on. It's like, the Dreams update couldn't install. I'm like, I know. I don't know why every game that gets updated for every PlayStation 4 game that gets updated but is installed. Like when I was playing Cardo, I eventually had to move Cardo to the hard drive because every time I would turn it on, it'd be like, the update for Cardo can't be. I'm like, I know you're on external hard drive. I don't know how to tell you to update there.
Yeah, and I swear I need to repair my external hard drive anytime I turn off my PS5, and it is.
Oh really? I haven't had that.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous, and like it only takes a few seconds, and so it's not the worst thing in the world. But it's always that concern of, am I fucking up my hard drive? Do I need to do something? Also,
yeah.
why doesn't it if I click turn off my PS5 and my external hard drive is clicked in, or my external hard drive is plugged in? Why don't you automatically do that for me? It's these small things that I'm sure they're gonna fix at a certain point, but at this point are issues for me that I don't like. Just fix it. Just fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, let me tell you about some PlayStation picks. Of course, this is where we highlight a few of the cool looking games coming to PSN this week. We have one big hitter being Persona 5 Strikers for PS4. That's coming February 23rd. Barrett's been playing it. Barrett's close to the end of it, I believe.
Yeah, I'm like 37 hours into it as of last night.
Oh, yeah.
And so like we got to the part where it was like, oh, this is going to be like our last jail, but it's like, it's obviously that there's like some extra shit going on. So I feel like I've one more kind of jail to go to after this, but I've been really enjoying it. Again, it's seeing the Phantom Thieves back together again. It's a fun story, a good excuse to see these characters again. If you love the Phantom Thieves, I think it's a definite like must play for people who are fans of Persona 5. And definitely, like, the gameplay is way different. It's more of marrying Persona and Muso. And again, like I've said all the time, where like the more I play it, the more I'm impressed with like how much of it still feels like Persona, even though it is like moment to moment action, not turn based and stuff like that. And like the loop kind of, because like I'm getting back into Royal, and I love the gameplay loop of the combat system in Royal. Like the loop in Strikers definitely is like a roller coaster for me, where like some nights I'm like, yeah, like I want to like grind about in a jail for like an hour or two, and then a lot of the times after a little bit I'm like, you know what, yeah, I can stop and not play for a couple of days. But it's been a great adventure, and I'm excited to see where it all ends up. Like I've been saying, like if Persona 5 / Royal was the anime, this is like the fun anime movie tie-in that like doesn't do like a whole lot on a level of like adding new stuff to the characters that we all know and love, but
it's another chance to be with them.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some fun new stories, and it's one of those things where I think I kind of understand why, like, because they're being weird about this being a sequel to Royal. Like, this is specifically, I think, like a follow-up just to the base Persona 5 game, with no follow-ups of the stuff that's happened to Royal. And I think I hit a point last night where I realized why, because there's some thematically very, very similar things with some of the new stuff that they added in Royal, with some of the, like, kind of quote unquote like last boss that you have in Strikers, where it's like oh, this is very, very similar to the end of Royal, and like I don't think they're hitting it as well as the end of Royal, and it was interesting, and bless, I hope you play more of it, because I want to talk to you about that, because you and I both love like the end of Royal, and I think what Strikers does near the end, again, this is assuming that I'm like on the tail end of the game, but the jail I hit last night, I was like, well, there's a lot of similarities here, and like I said, like I don't think Strikers nails it as well as Royal, but it's still really fun. But also like the jail before this one has a boss fight that I think it might be my favorite boss fight between both Strikers and Royal. So
wow,
yeah, it super, super fun.
Bless, you ever gonna touch this game again?
I am at some point. I fell off of it because I think with it being such a different play style, I had to be way more in the mood for it.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Yeah, and I've just not been in the mood for it, and so I'm kind of waiting on that. But I can't wait to get back to it.
Yeah, there was like a full like week and a half
world.
that I just like didn't go back to it because I was not in the mood for the Muso thing. Like it's definitely because it's a shorter game. It's much shorter. Like I think like from what I've heard of people who've actually been it took like 40-ish hours, so it's nowhere near the lengths of Royal. So I think it is a game that can kind of lend itself to like not feel like you have to put so much time to, and you can take your time, as Persona 5 says. So
as far as actual PlayStation picks this week, I'm going to start with a game called Taxi Chaos, which is coming to PS4 on Tuesday, February 23rd. Taxi Chaos is a casual arcade racing game where you select one of a wide range of unlockable cabs. Your goal is to try and earn big cab fares by picking up any customer and dropping them off at their destination spots as fast as possible before you run out of time. However, beware, most customers are a little bit crazy. If you're watching, yeah, if you're watching the video version right now, it's basically it's Crazy Taxi.
It's motherfucking Crazy Taxi, and I can't wait. It does not look like a 10 out of 10 by any stretch of the imagination, but it looks like somebody finally was like, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves. We will make a Crazy Taxi. I am guaranteed to play this for at least one night.
Hell yeah. I might actually reach out for a code for this because that actually is pretty fun.
Reach out and touch fate. Did you ever respond to my code request?
I did not. Is there still time? Can I do that?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. You put it in and you said like, hey, it's a Crazy Taxi-like game, and I was like, cool,
You're
whatever.
like, I'm better than that, but now you see it. Look at that.
Yeah, now I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, that does look kind of fun. I do kind of want to jump into that.
Yeah, 100%.
We also got Jupiter Grad. This is coming out for PlayStation 4 Thursday, February 25th. Jupiter Grad, and I'm gonna read their description verbatim. Like it had typos when I copied it from their website, and I just kept all of it in because it was a lot. Jupiter Grad is the plunger-driven cosmonaut game where you can swing through space station with style, all in cel-shaded graphics. Can you believe that grappling hooks is the definitive way of locomotion in a place like this? It's one-of-a-kind experience where VR platformer meets puzzle in a single-player campaign. It also gives you arcade thrills with time attack mode. All of this soaked in delicious diesel punk sauce.
Yeah.
Game looks fun.
It does look fun, yeah. It also looks like I might get car sick playing it, but I got pretty good VR legs these days, but the way he's swinging and swimming here reminds me a lot of Echo Arena for Oculus, which
Rigs
the
too.
first. What?
Rigs.
Oh, Rigs, yeah.
Mechanized combat.
But for me with Echo Arena, I remember doing that the first time at Judges Week and having to at one point grab the wall like I was in a swimming pool and be like, I need to catch my breath. Like I am just getting car sick as fuck flying around doing all this shit right now.
Yeah, there is so much motion, but it does look like you get to be kind of Spider-Man-ish and swing through this
Totally.
space station
Yeah, that sounds
with
awesome.
your plunger arms, which sounds fun in theory. In practice, we'll have to wait and see.
Big Daddy Bless, before you move on to this
up?
last game, my question about you and PlayStation VR. Have you had even the inkling to hook up your PlayStation VR? Yeah, right?
Not at all.
Yeah,
especially because I have an Oculus Quest, and if I thought about getting into VR, immediately I would go to that thing over trying to hook it up with my PS5 and all that.
Yeah, my PlayStation 5 looks so good over here. It's all set up nice, and it's just the idea of dragging out all these cables, putting in the adapter, and doing the thing. I was like, I don't. And then the camera, like, I don't want to do this right now.
And there's not been games that have called out to me from
Also true.
PlayStation VR. Like if there was another Astrobot or Trover Saves the Universe or anything of that ilk that came out for it, then I think I'd be more tempted. But there's been nothing for PSVR.
Yeah, I still want to platinum Iron Man VR, but it's just that I don't feel like doing that right now.
Yeah. This last game is a game called Retromania Wrestling coming out for PS4 on Friday, February 26th. Greg, I'm curious on what you think about this one. Mm-hmm. Retromania Wrestling is the official sequel to the classic arcade game WrestleFest that was released in 1991 by Technos of Japan. Retromania Wrestling will be a pick-up-and-play arcade wrestling game with beautiful 2D sprites, incredible backgrounds, and fast-paced arcade-style gameplay. In the trailer that Bear's showing right now, you see like a pixelated version of Mega Ran, friend of the show, doing a fun song for it.
I can't wait. I'm excited for it. It's one of those when I can't wait. It looks awesome. Tommy Dreamer's in it. They obviously, you see the Blue World Order there. Blue Meanie's in it. They've gone through and put a bunch of different. If you let it play right here, Barrett, they're going to run through a whole bunch of other people that are in it. It looks great. It looks cool. My concern, of course, is how arcadey is it? Like for me personally, the wrestling games I always loved were the No Mercy and WCW, NWO Revenge, the AKAI engine. That, of course, is what AEW's game is supposed to be like. So looking at it, my concern becomes, is it arcade in the way like I was hitting Undertaker in the old WWE, WWF at the time games where I'd make like, Undertaker would like make a gravestone and slap it over the heads. It doesn't look like that. It looks like a pick up and played arcade wrestling game that I'm just going to get into and have fun in. And there's going to be pins. There's going to be submissions. So I'm very interested in it. You know what I mean? Fire Pro Wrestling, of course, Fire Pro Wrestling World gave us so many amazing create options and stuff like that. But the gameplay of it took getting used to in terms of having to wait for the foot to hit the ground. That's when you put your button commands. And it was a little too much, I think, for the common wrestling game fan to jump into. And I know that's what AEW is chasing, where they're literally, Kenny Omega's like, we're making No Mercy. We're making No Mercy again, which was a game that obviously had taken off back in the day on this N64 in a way that this is anybody can get in and play and have fun with. So I am cautiously optimistic for this one. You see the House of Hardcore stuff right there from Tommy Dreamer. They have a story mode. I don't know exactly what I'm getting into. There's only 16 wrestlers. It seems cool. I love the fact that one of the rings they showed earlier is the blue ring that you would get as a WWE action figure thing, where it even has the little championship belt stands that it had there. They just made one thing out of it. So I don't know exactly what it's going to be when we get our hands on it, but I love a good wrestling game, and I'm down to try something new.
Hell yeah.
Blessing.
Greg.
You're done with your section, and now it's time for what you've been playing. And I didn't forget. I just, I was.
Oh, I thought you were doing the purposeful
pregnant pause there. No, pregnant pause. We didn't do it. So it's time to talk about what you've been playing, and I'm going to start off this week because I got a couple different things, and they kind of work together. But number one, first and foremost, is I went and got a Backbone from the people at Backbone. This is, of course, the remote play adapter that Brian Elton had about during our whatchamacallit. Spoiler cast for Bloodborne. And so I've been using it all week. If you're an audio listener, it's my iPhone right now plugged into the dock here. And then you just hit the button and then you're right into it. It's having trouble focusing, of course, because I just can't ever get this camera to do what I want it to do. Barrett, why won't it focus?
Camera. It just wants
why does the smart camera not understand the thing?
I don't know. I never got one, so I don't know how these work.
There's that thing.
Yeah.
There we go. See?
I wasn't cool enough to get one of these cameras.
You weren't. No, we're not going to finance your Twitch stream at twitch.tv/sadboybarrett. Come on.
Bad Boy Barrett.
So you pop it on, and it's got its own little interface, its own little thing. So I'm sorry, if you're an audio listener, what I was saying earlier is this is a controller you just attach to your phone. Right now, it's iOS only. They are working on an Android one, but since I'm an iOS guy, I don't have to worry about it at all, right? And so it has its own little program for Backbone that is a little app on your thing, which then becomes a home screen for obviously using PlayStation Remote Play, Xbox Remote Play, and then down here they actually have recommendations for the different games you can go get off the App Store because it does work with just games off the App Store as well. It has its own capture button. It has its own broadcast button, so you can get screenshots, you can save replays, which is what you're looking at right there and stuff. Just to see what it actually looks like when it's not together, the Backbone just looks like this. It's still focused on my face. I'll bring it back like this, and then it expands out, so you can put any iPhone you want in there, any size. You plug it in, and shut it around it, and you're good to go. I've been extremely impressed with it. I obviously have used Remote Play a bunch over the years. I haven't done it in too many recent months, but it's been that thing of feeling the call of it where it's like I want to play something, but obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic, and so Jen wants to watch something too because she's been trapped in her room working all day. So it's like, okay, for a while I was breaking out the game screen that I love to and having it there and having separate things, but most of the time I'm like, that's so much work right now. I'd rather just chill out and hang out with her. But for games I just want to fiddle away at that to do some stuff in, I can knock down there. Barrett, if you want to run, I put a hyperlink in What You Playin for Backbone controller. It's a trailer for it. Because what they list out, of course, is low latency connection. It plays games that support things, capture game clips and screenshots, like I was talking about it. There is a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the bottom of it, so you can plug right in there. It's pass through charging and audio. There's a charger on this side that you can plug your iPhone charger into it, and then it's got its own app. It's got the friends list. It's got the sharing station that I was talking about, and all these different things. So you can go get it that way and play that way. But I was super impressed with it, Bless, because I haven't done remote play that much with PlayStation 5. I had done a bunch with PlayStation 4. If you remember back in the day when I was reviewing Concrete Genie, I was playing from a hotel bedroom on hotel internet, and I was like, holy shit, I can't believe this is working this well. I was playing on the iPad. And PlayStation 5 to iPhone in the same house, they're on the same network or whatever. Super impressed how well it's worked. It's still remote play, so this morning I was playing one of the games, and it started breaking down at one point because I was uploading a video out here. Jen was on a video call. I think I was streaming you guys on Games Daily, and then Luce was doing whatever she was doing for GameSpot, right? Easy to jump into and work, but it didn't disconnect. That's remote play, though, that I'm talking about in terms of, I guess, I shouldn't bring that into this review. PlayStation 5 remote play I'm impressed with, as well as the fact that the Backbone actually feels good. Really good. It's got triggers on the top. It's got really good quality buttons over here. When I'm holding it and playing it, it just feels like I'm playing on the Switch, which is a compliment to it, not a knock at all in any way, shape, or form. It's $100. I've seen people in the chat asking how much it is. $100 to get it. Like I said, it pops onto any of the iPhones that has it. They are working on with the Android one. I'm not sure when that's coming out. But for me, with what it's designed to do, I've been impressed with it. I was playing Division on it. Division felt good. I wasn't feeling, it was, it was still getting that quality. I felt really dropped in terms of what the look of the game was. But again, that's remote play. The actual latency, the ability to use it, even the plug and play, I was wondering if that would work out well, and it does. Even with my case on, I just have one of the old Apple cases from when I smashed my phone at the London meet and greet at the World Tour. I have never taken it off, and now it slides in there no problem. So that's playbackbone.com. If you want to go try that out and get it. What I've been playing on it, though, is a game that I cannot pronounce well. I actually watched a video earlier today and then immediately forgot how to actually say it. But it's Olija, Olija. That's not how you say it. Hold on.
I pronounced it like a billion different ways. I say Elijah.
Elijah, that makes sense too. I'm here. IGN's video review. I'm starting right now. They say it right in the front. Olia is what they say.
Well, I was not expecting that. Holy cow.
It's like Olia.
The J is silent.
That's how they say it.
That makes sense.
Mitchell
Olia.
Saltzman at IGN, aka at Jurassic Rabbit, says Olia. Is that what I said?
Olia, yeah.
Olia.
Okay, I can dig that.
Olia is what he's saying.
Okay, like the singer. Rest in peace.
IGA. No, that's Olia. This is Olia. With an
Olia,
O at the front. O.
Gotcha.
Olia.
Olia.
Olia. Olia. It's a bad name for a game.
I was way off with Elijah.
I mean, I understand what they're going for, but in a game without voice acting, it's always tough if you're gonna spell your name somewhere. Anyways, you're looking at it right now. If you're seeing us actually talk about the game, the art style is very much Panda Musk meets Atari is how I describe it. If you look at it, it's got this vibe to it, right? The sides. I think the IGN review talks about like side scroller Commodore 64 kind of games, right? There's obviously modern detail to that. It's modern Atari kind of graphics or whatever. But it is you with the Panda Musk thing. And Barry, now that we're talking about it, I'm sorry, can you go all the way to the front? Because I think one of the strengths of Olia here is the fact that it has this beautiful cutscene stuff that they do here. And they're actually telling you a really interesting story throughout it, right? So the official thing reads from Devolver Digital, who's publishing it. This is developer Skeleton Crew Studio. We say Olia? Is that what we said?
Olia, yep.
Olia follows Faraday's quest, a man shipwrecked and trapped in the mysterious country of Terraphage. Armed with a legendary harpoon, he and other castaways try to leave this hostile country to return to their homelands. Through adventurous exploration, narration, and razor-sharp combat, the player will discover a strange world and its inhabitants, including Olia, the enigmatic lady that Faraday finds himself bound to over time. Inspired by swashbuckling tales and cinematic adventure games, Olia is a story about facing the unknown in adversary. From what I can see, like basically what happened since last PS I Love You, I guess 2 of them since I was last on. I got to this thing bus where I was obsessed with the Division, going through, killing all that, wanted to do kill Fei Lao, then I wanted to do the raid. Last night, me and Snowmike Mike killed Fei Lao, and then it was the raid we're saving for Wednesday on stream, twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. So then it was this thing of, all right, I want to play some stuff, but what do I want to play? And all the stuff I'm hankering for right now wasn't out yet. So I just put out a call on Twitter of like, you know me, you know what I've played and what I haven't played. What is a game I've never touched? Not a game I want to platinum or not a game I want to return to like Persona. Like, what is something I want something brand new? And so a whole bunch of people threw out a whole bunch of great games, and thank you so much. Justin Massigill from the PlayStation blog and the PlayStation Blogcast tossed out Olia and said, go in blind, as blind as you can. I have not finished it, and I have not gotten to anything where I'm like, man, if they would have said something ahead of time, it would have ruined it for me. So you don't have to worry about anything like that. I started it last night, and I was not feeling it at first. And it was very much like, oh, okay, like it's this side-scrolling platformer I'm going through. You kind of saw hints of Metroidvania stuff of like, I knew there's something there, but I can't get to it. So clearly I'm gonna have to come back to it. I don't know what's about it. And as they already talked about this spear, right, this harpoon being a big deal for the story, you being shipwrecked, and like, you get shipwrecked, you find this new town, Terraphage, like they're talking, that's filled with other people who have been shipwrecked there. And so then you go out with this ferryman, you go out, start running these levels. Eventually I got the harpoon, and that's where it turned the corner for me. And that was at the end of the play session last night where I got the harpoon, and you throw it and then you call it back like Mjolnir. So you have this harpoon that you use like Mjolnir in terms of an attack, but then also in terms of traversal. So you also throw it. There's certain things you can stick to. You throw it and stick it into those things, and then you can dash up to it and grab it. And so that you get pulled to it rather than pulling it back to you. And that allows you to access different areas and go. This morning I woke up after going to bed kind of not lukewarm on it, and it's all I could think about. And so like before this, I was playing a bunch of it, going through it. I think I'm close to the end. I Googled around because it's an indie game. It seems like it's going to be short. It looks like people are saying you can beat it in 4 or 5 hours or whatever, which would make sense because you need to collect these 3 different keys, and I have 2 of them right now. So I think the next one I'd get the 3rd. That might be a MacGuffin that then kicks open a new area, but it seems like it's moving at a clip. I'm enjoying myself. I think it's a very unique art style that grows on you over time outside of the actual story things they're telling you, the cutscenes they're giving you in the like Panda Musk art. However, beyond that, the music I think is really, really incredible. Like it's very much sets the stage and sticks with you and is giving you these Ghost of Tsushima like vibes in terms of what it's doing and how it's telling you. The narration / dialogue is popping up on screen. That's done really well. It has like, you know, those moments similar to where we talked about with Ghost, right, where you'd come into something new and the text would come across the center of the screen. When you get to like big moments, like the screen will go black for a second, like and show you whatever they're talking about, and then come back to where you were fighting and stuff like that. It's got a really cool presentation to it. On top of that, you're going through, you're killing these things, you're getting blue gems that you can come back and then use to get when you build out your town and you find other shipwreck people. They open up shops and stuff. You can get more health from them. You can there's a guy who'll craft you hats which give you different abilities, right? So like you can do a thing where you're invulnerable to acid, but you also give off acid damage. When you fill up this meter while you're attacking people, then you take their life force, stuff like that. So there's a reason to go back, and there's a reason to farm if you really wanted to. The one thing I have so far about it, which probably is going to differ player to player, but works for me, is that I'm not being challenged by it. Like, if that makes sense, where I'm enjoying myself, I'm fighting through it, but dying is incredibly rare, and that includes the bosses. Where usually I'd get to these, looking at this game and thinking about getting to a boss battle, I'd imagine it's going to be a lot of trial and error. There's going to be a lot of close finishes. There's going to be a lot of like, fuck, I got to do this again. I haven't had that. I've had close finishes, but I've won every one of the boss fights in the first time, which I enjoy, but then also, why did I spend all these gems getting more health? Like, why would I ever switch off this hat if it's doing all these different things? It feels like it's a game that on its surface looks like it could be one of those I'm going to challenge you and push you games and tell you a story, but it really feels like it's just telling me a story, which in a 4 to 5 hour game or whatever it's going to end up being, I'm not against, but I know for some you'd look at that and go, oh, it's not worth the $14.99 for it. No platinum for it either, smaller trophy list, which again isn't me condemning the game, but there are things to go back and do and certain things to grind out for trophies, but I don't see it being a game that even if I go through and get every trophy that I'm going to be there for an obscene amount of time for. It might be worth, a wait for a sale or for a PlayStation Plus kind of thing.
Interesting.
And thank you. I thought you might find that interesting.
That was very good breakdown of that game. I don't know if you saw this the other week on Twitter. We talked about doing the whole seal of approval thing, and then we got a tweet from Harley White who tweeted at us, said, "Currently listening to hashtag PS Love You XOXO, and I have a suggestion for the kind of funny seal of approval. Maybe do them in trophy tiers, platinum, gold, etc. Thoughts?" And I really like that idea. I thought that was kind of a novel thing, because I feel like the seal of approval in terms of like the ranging quality in games kind of gets difficult to do, right? Because like, all right, well, is an 8 out of 10? Does that get a seal of approval?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean for us? And I feel like tearing them up that way makes them a bit more interesting and clear.
Did he give some art? Did he give us art?
He didn't give us art, no, unfortunately.
Coward. We still
We
need
can
to
just
get
steal
that.
the PlayStation art. They won't notice.
You don't think so? I feel like we steal it for a lot of stuff though. That the tiers over on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, they're trophies too,
Are they really? Oh damn.
Yeah,
oh yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, we do have the
silver,
trophy
right,
tiers there.
Yeah,
I'm noticing that.
Yeah.
Did we steal their art?
I think we stole everything. I don't think Andy's ever made something original.
Oh god.
No, it's a great idea, and I do think that this game, again, mileage varies and what people want out of games varies. Because I think when I was looking to figure out how to spell it, it was the first time I actually looked at reviews for it. IGN gave it a 7, which I don't think's criminally underrating it or overrating in any way, shape, or form. I just think I'm going to burn through it. But again, I'm going to see credits on this. Whereas like a couple of the other games, I've been trying to play a few smaller things on PSI Levies, right? And it's like, yeah, sure. Cardo is very cute and enjoyable, but like it was the same thing where I did not feel like I was being pushed. So like I did 4 chapters of it, 3 chapters of it. And I'm like, I got it. I'm going to move on to something else. Whereas like I want to finish this podcast to go play it and finish it. So like I think it'll get a seal of approval if we want to do that. If we want to tinker around with seal approvals and have them there, I'm fine with it. But I'm not prepared to give it a ranking yet on seal of approval.
You gotta wait for it. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. It's a game that I that had caught my interest a little bit because I'd seen people talking about it on Twitter, and we talked about it, I believe, either last week or weeks before about it for the PlayStation picks. Read through it, and it looked interesting, and it sounded interesting, and I know people out there, a few people out there were very into Olia, were very into it, when it was brought up. But it's been one that I've kind of been, I don't know, like nothing has really made me be like, okay, this is the one I got to sit down and play.
Sure.
And from the description that you've given so far, I'm kind of in the same place of, sounds like a cool game. You know, it sounds interesting, it sounds unique, but also doesn't sound like a thing that I feel like I must play.
The biggest thing about it is, yeah, I think it's cool and I think it's unique and I think I'm having a great time with it. But is it $15 worth of fun? Like that's where you start. And the games are so much more obviously than their length or this, that, the other. Like, and again, it's different person to person, but like in the same breath, like, you know what I mean? In terms of what are we looking for right now? And I've been trying all these different things and trying to find it. I saw somebody, hold on, I was like, somebody, it's Omega Buster in the chat. Did Greg already finish Haven? No, I had started Haven and talked about it in the Gamescast and I had enjoyed that, but it's, you know how I run in moods. I have to be in the mood for a game. Yeah. And I liked what I played of Haven, but I wasn't in the mood to get back to that. I wanted something a bit more adventure-y, and I think I was trying to talk to Mike about it yesterday in Discord, right? I was like, I want like an epic adventure. He's like, what are you looking for? I'm like, I would love a big game that I'm going through and questing and doing all these things, and like Haven isn't that right there, right? I had put it up there too. People had been like, Greg, you should play Return of the Obra Dinn. I'm like, I know I should. I had started that on PC for Game of the Year considerations back in the day. Never finished it. I have it on Switch. Somebody was like, it's on PlayStation. I'm like, well, trophies, let's go. And I started playing that, and it was that thing of like, yep, this is totally a Greg-ass game, but it's not what I need right now on this Sunday. On this Sunday, I want action, and I want to be going, and I want to be doing something, whereas Obra Dinn is very much like observe and report, which is great and totally something I want to do and doing detective work, shit like that. But like I needed something similar to that. So I think, you know, the way they describe it here, even of saying like inspired by swashbuckling tales, like that's what this feels like. And so it does feel like it's not punishing, which usually would be a turnoff to me. It's the reason something like Shovel Knight doesn't work for me. But like it also, I think, could be totally a turnoff too. It was like, this is not brain dead because I'm having fun and I'm doing dodge rolls and I'm getting through it and I just unlock the blunderbuss shotgun or whatever. And like, there's cool stuff going on in it, but we'll see how it all wraps up when we get, if we're doing our recommendations by color or whatever. What else? What have you been playing?
Speaking of moods, I was thinking about this earlier, that I'm really in the mood to play Disco Elysium. I've been waiting for it to come to PlayStation before I get to it. But I'm in that similar place where I'm playing a bunch of games right now, and I'm kind of like, Demon Souls is probably the big one, and even for that, I'm kind of one foot in, one foot out. Where talked about it last week, and I'm like blown away by how beautiful it looks, and it is that Souls design that I'm growing to love more and more and more. But even as I'm playing it, there's that thing in the back of my head where I'm like, yeah, I'm enjoying this, but I don't know if I'm necessarily all the way in the mood for this, rather than going back and replaying Sekiro or something, right? Like Sekiro's been the thing that's kind of been nagging at me, where I love that game so much, and after beating it, I'm just craving it. And I thought Demon Souls would do that for me, but I don't think it's scratching that exact itch. And I've kind of been in the place of trying to figure out what I want to play and all that different stuff. But for what I've been playing, I picked up a couple of random games. Speed Limit is one that I talked about last week for PlayStation Picks, and I picked up the demo just to try it out because me and Jonathan talked about how, yeah, it looks interesting, but at the same time, we've seen so many games with that exact kind of setup come and not hit the way that we wanted it to hit. So Speed Limit is this side-scrolling, pixelated action game where you're going around shooting shit, and the perspective changes a bunch, and so you go from side-scrolling, shoot 'em up, to then behind-the-back action, and it's a lot of set-piece stuff. And from playing the demo, immediately I was kind of like, I'm not feeling this at all. I don't like this. Like, it starts off with this bus sequence where you're going through and you're playing as a guy with a gun, shooting up all these enemies that are coming at you and trying to take you out. And it is that 2D shoot 'em up. Like, it has those mechanics of your side scrolling. You can aim up diagonally, or you can aim forward, or you can aim behind yourself and take out the enemies that are coming at you from every direction. My thing is, it just didn't feel good to play. Like, I didn't actually enjoy the actual act of shooting these guys down. And by the time I got toward the end of the first level, I was kind of just like, oh, this feels clunky from every single side of it. The things that struck me as exciting about it, which were basically how crazy all the action looked, the attitude of it, the style of it, none of that really captured me in the moment of playing it. And so I after playing the demo, I was kind of like, okay, no, this wasn't what I wanted, and then dropped it. I also picked up a game called Puss, which you
Puss!
talked about on Kind of Funny Games Daily on Friday with a special guest. That was one of the out
Julia Hardy, I did the same thing. I turned it on. Jen was in the room, and she's like, "Making me sick. Can you please turn it off? It's giving me a headache. It's like so seizure inducing. I'm like,
Yeah.
like all these weird lights going all the time."
There's so much shit going on in it, but like the gameplay of it is super simple, where you're playing as a cat head, and you are basically dragging that thing to the end of the level through these narrow paths. And well, I guess you're not dragging it; you're like navigating with your analog stick.
You are the head or whatever. Sure.
Yeah, you
And,
are
like,
the
the
head.
paths will close on you sometimes. You know, it's kind of like Operation 2, where it's like don't touch the sides. Like you know, it starts vibrating, it'll explode.
Yeah, and it feels like you're playing an internet meme a bit,
Yeah,
because it very much
100%.
is. Here are all these different cat heads, and here's all this vaporwave shit, and here's all this distracting shit on screen. And I think it's actually like a pretty cute game. Like it has a lot of fun stuff going for it in terms of the style and the art and all that stuff. Like that stuff seems pretty well realized. The actual gameplay of it itself, very simple. But if you see a trailer of Puss and you're like oh, I kind of want to play that, it is exactly what it looks like. And I think for some people that'll be fun. For me, it was fun for a good 30 minutes, and then I was like, okay, cool, I'm done. Because also a thing I should point out too is that it is procedurally generated, and once you die, you start from the beginning. It's like an arcade style game. And so if that's what you're looking for out of a game, it did that pretty well. But also after the 30 minutes, I was kind of done with that one too. I was like, okay, cool, I see what this is. Had fun with it for the 30
Got
minutes,
it.
but I don't
Thank
think
you.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
get back to it. I've also been playing a lot of Dreams. And so if you ended up watching the Dreams Impy Awards, they invited me on to be a judge for the Creation of the Year award.
Woo!
And so for that, thank you. For that, I played through all the nominations that they had for Creation of the Year. And that was about 7 different games. And that was a really fun thing for me to do, because there were all the games that I played for that were phenomenal in a way
Hell yeah.
that, because it's been so long since I played Dreams, a big thing about that game for me has been, oh man, years down the line, people are gonna have time to actually fully create their fully finished products or fully finished projects, and getting to see the finished projects are going to be like a thing, right? Like the more time that people have with Dreams, the more amazing dreams that are going to come out of that game. And I feel like we're kind of seeing some of that right now, where I went through, and the nominations were, if you pay attention to Dreams, or if you have a vague knowledge of what these games are, right? A game called Lock, a game called The Snow Gardens, Alpine Dream, A Little Perspective, Infinity Jump, Temporal Fuse, and Pig Detective 3. I want to shout out just a few of them because I can go on talking about all these games, but Temporal Fuse was a really cool one. It's basically a first person. I'd compare it to something like Hotline Miami or Ghost Runner, where it is a fast paced, you have a split second to do the exact thing you want to do. So you start off in an elevator, and the whole thing with the game is, as you move, time ticks down, and you have, let's say, 10 seconds to find the bomb that's in the room. So you have to search for this room really fast as time moves when you move, in order to get that thing and shut it down. And you have a few. It's a very short game. It's probably like at most 30 minutes long, even if that. But for the short experience, it was very cool, very stylish, very fun in the moment. And I highly recommend, if anybody has 30 minutes to spare on Dreams, or you're looking for something, that's something I definitely recommend you check out. Infinity Jump is another one where that is a 2D platformer where you are jumping through, and you have unlimited jumps that you can do in these 2D side-scrolling levels, or not even side-scrolling, 2D platforming levels. They're actually all on one screen. The gimmick of this game is that you change back and forth between dimensions, and so you play as this robot that is being observed by these scientists, and the robot has the power to, I guess, transport back and forth between the future and the past. And so you're using that almost similarly to the Titanfall 2 level, where you're going back and forth.
Sure.
Very light spoilers for Titanfall 2, where you're going back and forth.
Oh my god, fuck you if you're gonna yell at us about Titanfall 2 spoilers. You had your chance to make that game. You fucking failed us. We needed you.
It's the exact same mechanic, but in a platformer, which means that you are teleporting into Dimension 2, and that has different platforms in Dimension 1, and you're going back and forth in order to dodge platforms or land on certain platforms. And the whole thing there is that you also have unlimited jumps, which means that there is this element of getting the high score, which is what are the least amount of jumps you can do in order to get to the end. And it is a really fun, novel concept for a platformer, and it has an ending where it wraps up. And I tweeted about this as I was going through the nominees, that there was a platformer I played that towards the end of it I applauded it, and this is the one where the way that it wraps up, the way that it ends, I was like, fucking bravo for a user created thing. This is awesome. And so yeah, Infinity Jump, one I definitely recommend if you're on Dreams or you're looking for something to play. A Little Perspective is a puzzle game that is this cool block puzzler where you are basically you're a cube, and you are rolling on these cube platforms in order to try and make it to the ending. But the whole gimmick of it is that you are switching perspective in like this four dimensional, or not dimensional. You have like 4 planes that you can switch between, that you can switch around. And each plane shows you a different perspective of the level that you're playing on, which means that the blocks that you're playing on switch. It's so weird to describe.
I know, it's great hearing you try to explain it. I love it.
It's such a difficult one because you have to see it. But the blocks that you're playing on shift depending on the plane that you're looking at the level through. And so that as you switch around the camera perspective, that changes how you play and how you solve this puzzle or these puzzles. And it is a very, very fun, very smart puzzle game. If you're looking for that type of it feels like an iOS game, sort of. It feels like a mobile game that wasn't even made in Dreams. If you're looking for that type of thing, Little Perspective was really cool. And then the last one I'll talk about, which is actually the winner of Creation of the Year, was a game that blew me away, called Lock. Lock is basically The Witness, but with word puzzles, and you are you are basically going from puzzle room to puzzle room. It's a lot smaller of a game than The Witness, obviously, but like you're going from puzzle room to puzzle room, and each room has a puzzle that you're trying to figure out that correlates to a 4-letter word. And so when you first boot up the game, you are going into like this small house of puzzles. You approach the front door, and
small house of puzzles.
A small house of puzzles. You approach the front door, and you have to unlock the thing by inputting this 4-letter code. And you look around, you find a magazine, you open it, and you get to the back of the magazine, and you realize that I can't remember the exact puzzle, but you're basically you basically have to solve. You basically have to solve the puzzle that's on the back of that magazine, and that'll correlate to the letter of the word being, I'm not going to say it, but it's a 4-letter word you put into the door to unlock the door. And you're basically doing that over and over again for these different puzzle rooms. The cool thing about it is that it uses, I believe it's called stenography, which is basically a bunch of different languages, like stuff like Braille, and there's like a flag language that I can't remember the name for, but a bunch of different written languages that you kind of learn from going into this book that's in the game and paging through and being like, okay, cool, A correlates to this in Braille, B correlates to this, or you go through whatever other language, right? A correlates to this, B correlates to that. You're taking that and you're taking it from room to room and applying that to learning these different puzzle rooms and figuring out what the solution is. As I'm describing it, probably sounds very convoluted and very weird, but once you get into it, you realize that it is basically The Witness with words, and it is phenomenally done. Very cool art style, very cool concept, very smart game, very smart solutions that I recommend anybody.
Isn't it just
playing.
called flag signaling or something like that? I think
it might be called flag signaling.
Yeah.
And there are a few other languages that I can't think of off the top because I've been talking for a while, but trust me that it is a fucking phenomenal game.
Can I guess
Lock.
the 4-letter word, Blessing?
Sure.
Poop.
Damn, that's actually the last one that unlocks the final puzzle in the game. No, I'm joking, but
remember, you can go to indreams.me right now, log in with your PlayStation ID, and then guess what? You can go favorite all these games so you can play it next time you turn on Dreams, which is what I just did. They're all my dreams in my later queue.
Yeah,
ready to go.
And I only talked about 4 of them, but all 7 of them are really great games. And so Pig Detective 3 was another one, Alpine Dream, and then the Snow Gardens. All these games are fucking great. But yeah, Lock blew me away. Especially for me as somebody who really loves The Witness. Playing Lock, I was like, how in the world did they make this? Very phenomenal game.
Did you hear me in Pig Detective 3? Did you get to my did you get to my dialogue? Did you play deep enough to find me in that game?
I can't remember. I remember when I booted it up, your name came up, I think, in the opening credits or something. And I was like, oh, Greg Miller's
me and Troy Baker,
game.
don't worry about it. And then you're like immediately like, I'm not voting for this.
Yeah, I was like, fuck this.
Somebody's got to take this guy down to Pig. Don't worry about it.
By the way, have you looked on Twitter and checked out some of these threads that people are like arguing back and forth with the Kratos versus Ratchet thing? Because there are a few threads that are amazing.
Give me some. What do you got? What do you got in there?
All right. There's one that Kebabs replied to me when I quote tweeted your tweet about Kratos versus Ratchet, and Kebab says, Ratchet, easy peasy. Just bring in rhinos 1 through 7, the Harbinger and the Zodiac, and he can win easily. Kratos' issue is that he has to get in close. And then Andreezer responds and says, Kratos has elemental powers. He can do long range just fine. Kebabs replies, since when? And then Emmett Watkins Jr. comes out of nowhere and replies, that's what I'm saying. Even with his elemental powers, axe throws, and chain blades, he can't cover as much ground as a laser sniper rifle. Plus, Kratos can fly around with rocket boots and a helipad. And that's before we even get into the Rhino. And so that was one that I enjoyed. And then there's another one where Eric Van Allen of, I believe, US Gamer, of many places actually. He does writing for Waypoint, fan by a bunch of different places. But he responded to my original tweet and says, Ratchet has guns. Kratos is a beast and all, but he is literally bringing an axe to a gunfight. Dustin Granberry replies to him and says, but I mean, he's a god, right? We've seen him take punishment that will turn Ratchet into a pile of blood and guts. Ratchet's got a crazy arsenal, but Kratos would outlast him. Kratos would outlast him eventually, in my opinion. Eric Allen responds to him and says, Kratos has been punched, but I don't think he's ever been shot. And then Dustin responds to him, but my point is he's taken punishment that normal mortals couldn't survive from other gods, so he could survive a mortal weapon, surely. I really appreciate the amount of seriousness in which people are taking this argument with. And a lot of great arguments both sides, is what I'll say.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 2:03 p.m. Pacific time here as we record the show. I have put up the last poll here. It is up for 24 hours. So if you want to go check that out, you're welcome to. One of the other threads that devolved into chaos ended with Spencer saying, I think the real debate we should be having is could Blessing as a chicken beat Lucy James as herself? So if you go to twitter.com/GameOverGreggy, you can find a new poll. Could Blessing as a chicken kill Lucy James as herself?
I think he's
yes,
down.
No.
He's down
Show
in
me
10
results.
seconds. Down in 10.
Do we have prep time?
I'm gonna respond. They have prep time. Ladies and gentlemen,
prep time? I got it.
It's up. They have prep time. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of PS I Love You XOXO. Remember, every week, Blessing and I come together to nerd out about all things PlayStation. If you like that, come on over to patreon.com/kindafunnygames, where the show is not ending. You can still be watching live, like Joshy G, Ryan, Slight Door is what we're calling it. We're no longer trying to put the rest of the characters in there, all right? Of course, on patreon.com/kindafunnygames, you can get every show ad-free. You can get it with the post show. You can be part of the show like so many of you are. We thank and appreciate you for that. That's where we're gonna go. We got more to do over there. You can come hang out with us there. If you got it somewhere else or just found this on the street, it's on some weird USB drive. You can get new episodes every Tuesday, 6 a.m. youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe. Until next time, we have a post show to do. And early on here, could Blessing as a chicken kill Lucy James as herself? No's are winning with 64% of the vote. But you, if you're listening to this as it went live on YouTube, still have time. Get over there. Twitter.com/GameOverGreggy. You'll find it there, buried into a bunch. I'm going to do it on the
with
post
prep
show.
Time, yes. With prep time, I'm taking out Lucy James.
We're doing it. You can go to kindafunny.com/chicken fight. And that's where you can vote if Blessing would beat Lucy. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.